good. I just finished having lunch, which was a little bit of leftover fajitas, I think they say in Mexico.
Yeah, that's the proper pronunciation, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm treating myself. I mean, honestly, this probably explains why I'm having some gut problems. But I bought some donuts yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna treat myself to one of these during the episode. Make sure I'm extra sweet on the air today.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude. I thought you were about to say during the fajitas, like you just took a break in the fajitas and ate the donut.
Oh no! I actually instead of a tortilla, I just used a donut though.
Yeah.
Because I'm American.
You've seen the donut burgers before?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm referencing. That
hell
shit.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's good.
I've never had it.
It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, dude, like you don't. It's like epic mealtime stuff where it's just like you don't need to make every idea you come up with. Food isn't Twitter.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I feel like that's like the only medium that's actually enjoyed in. It's just like online or on Twitter. Like it's kind of like the pus burger you were talking about on the bonus. It's like just crazy shit that kind of maybe looks cool or is like a good idea conceptually, but you don't actually even want to eat it because it's like the donut burger. That's way too sticky, way too sweet. That's just like a heart attack meal. And you don't really want that, but it looks really cool probably on like a photo and you see it on a menu. You're like, whoa, you're intrigued by it. Same thing with the pus burger.
Dude, it's mostly the type of shit where it's like people, I think businesses just promote themselves with that stuff, but no one actually fucking orders it. You know, it's like, have you ever been to one of those restaurants where they're like, we have the biggest nachos, fucking this side of the Mason-Dixon or something, and it'll literally be like on the menu, it'll be like as seen on this television show, and like just all the shit. It's like half a book written on the fucking menu, and it's like, oh, okay, like people don't order this, you know, like. This isn't meant to be ordered. This is just self-promotion.
Mm-hmm. This is just lore, restaurant lore.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, all the real lore heads know.
Okay, one time I ate a 72-ounce steak as like a part of a competition, like food lore thing at a restaurant.
Dude, that gave you all of your health problems.
Probably. Fuck. I was like, it was free if you ate it. It was 72-ounce steak. It was a T-bone. And I was like,
did you eat it all?
Yeah, I was like 14 years old and I was like, I'm going to do it. And my parents were like, what? And then I was like, yeah. And once I got maybe a quarter of the way into it, I was like, I don't really want to do it anymore. you have to pay for it if you didn't finish it, and so but you get it for free if you did. So I was like, fuck, and it was expensive.
Your parents are like, no, boy, you're finishing that fucking steak.
They're like, you better fucking clear your plate. I'm like, okay.
Dumb sons of bitches.
Yeah, it worked though. It was good. I mean, I was not well after that. I was having meat sweats and a couple of bathroom episodes, like I believe, like you were talking about. But yeah, it's a good memory.
Yeah, it can be tough, man. It's tough out here for us irresponsible eaters.
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, when you're a kid, you just want to try that kind of shit. It's exciting. You're like, maybe I'll end up on Man versus Food or something, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I guess that guy is like still doing it on like YouTube now.
Oh, really?
Well, so they like replaced him with like a guy with like fucking a handlebar mustache or something.
Oh, no.
And like, yeah, it's like definitely a darker vibe than like the like East Coast guy, basically.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like East Coast has like a solid fat guy vibe.
Definitely.
You know?
Yeah, I like a northeastern fat guy, bald maybe sometimes. That's a good touch.
Yeah, like just Italian stock, right?
Yeah.
I think that Midwest can have some likable fat guys.
Mm-hmm.
You get out into California with a fat guy, that's some dark energy.
Oh, they're in the basement, dude.
Yeah, and
always.
Honestly, and like fat cowboys, I don't know about that. You know, I don't know.
But fat Southern people, dude, fat good old boys, yeah, that's the type of person. A Pudge, dude, fuck yeah.
Pudge, some hush puppies, right?
Yeah.
No, he's still doing it though, which honestly, like, I don't. it's not really a very strong income, is it? Like to need to just be destroying it. It's like man versus food and football players and people that work in like the trades.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, I mean, you're making good money, but like at what cost, you know?
But I mean, dude, man versus food, that's his passion. It's just shoving his face with food, unlimited food.
Yeah, no.
You gotta do what you love.
100%.
Speaking of doing what you love, you got a wedding coming up.
I do. Doing what you love. I don't know how to feel about that phrase.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have to dig into it too much, man. I just kind of, I just heard love, and I was like, oh, love and wedding. And then once I said it, I was like, okay, maybe there's implications in that statement that I don't want to put across.
Love is in the air.
Here, let's start up the episode before we get into it all.
These people are sick. This is obviously a very, very sick individual. These people are the sickest of them all.
Yeah.
These people are sick. They are sick. And you better get used to hearing it. These people are sick.
I need to update it.
Listening to that, well, also like the volume levels on it are just horrible too. But like listening to that, like the way my dad watches TV, where you're just commenting as if it's like a live broadcast, like they're sick, and you're like, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, hell yeah. Tell them.
Yeah. Hell yeah, Donnie.
Well, I boost the volume in post, just so you know. I put a bass booster on it, and I cranked the gain up super high.
Well, we all know how well that's been going for.
Hey, I think I've been getting the hang of it recently.
No, I'm sorry. You're doing a great job.
I didn't know how to work the programs at first, you know?
Yeah. Well, hold on. I ate that donut a lot faster than I thought I would.
Holy shit. I can hear the process of you like trying to get it down now. You're like, that's too big of a bite.
It was too big. That's what she said. But
shit,
dog.
Now you're making sexual innuendos on the air.
I know.
We're going off the rails here.
If you ever fucking talk about my wife like that. It's coming up, dude. We're about a month out. Actually, I guess, yeah, about a month out.
Yeah, we're close.
Honestly, man, I'm stoked for it. I'm stoked for it to be over a little bit. Because like, well, I mean, the topic isn't really going to be just me talking about my wedding, though I'm down to talk about it. It's just, it does occur to me just now that it's like, we're going to have several weeks before it happens anyways.
Yeah.
And so like, we're going to,
it's going to come up.
Exactly. Right. So I don't want to talk too much just about that. But,
of course not.
Dude, it's really fast. As a quick side note, I like have my like Windows calendar opened up, and it has like a second counter. And like, I swear to God, the seconds are just going by too fast.
You think time's sped up a little bit recently, or just that calendar is off?
I don't fucking know, man. I mean, it's 3:03 my time right now.
Yeah, me too. I mean, not my time. It's 5:03 here,
but yeah, checks. I don't know. Yeah, the feds are probably going to turn back the time clock a little bit after I noticed that. But
slow it down a little bit back, you know? We need to take it at a slower pace.
I don't want this month to go by too quickly, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked on it, man. You know, I mean, all the positive stuff, you know, I found a pretty good one. That's a whole other... Okay, for me, like, marriage and all of that is like a very spiritual thing.
Yeah.
That's
what it is.
Yeah, that's not a super. That's a pretty common take.
Yeah, it's not just for you.
But I mean, like, it does honestly kind of feel like in the secular world that is kind of a rare take a little bit. And,
yeah, definitely.
And honestly, even like just people that are kind of just playing along to the sheet music in organized religion, like, I don't know, you still get boomers that like fucking get divorced 1,000 times and just seem to not really give a shit. It's just kind of what you do.
That's a big boomer thing. Multiple divorces. Oh,
dude, my parents got divorced, and I like really have kind of come around to being like pretty strongly anti-divorce. Like,
yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit on an episode previously.
It's not. It's just, I think it's kind of like, you know, those stats they have about abortion where it's like 90% of women or something like that, like, are like, yeah, I mean, I just, like, no particular reason why I'm getting this. I'm just basically getting it, right? And then, like, it's like less than 1% of women are getting it because, like, rape or incest. It's like an insanely small scope of people.
Mm-hmm.
I like kind of feel that way about it. Well, let me fully set up my point here. And despite that being just this tiny portion of people, like, that exception is it's the exception that proves the rule. I mean, that's how so much shit is these days.
Yeah, that's
but like,
how it works.
It you know, the whole rule has to be around these fucking 3 people a year that this happens to, right? And that's kind of how I feel about divorce when it comes to, like, actual deal breakers. Like, this is somebody who makes me feel like I'm physically unsafe, or because here, I'll do the thing, right? Okay, I, like, really strongly oppose divorce. I, like, think that if you're with someone who's, like, physically violent, you need to get away from them, and I think it's okay there, right?
Yeah.
I think in the overall scope of things, percentage wise, that's such a small portion of the divorces, right?
Yeah.
That and again, even, like, I mean, the Catholic fucking Church acknowledges this. Basically, they still don't accept divorce, but annulment, right? You know, the idea that at the time of, you know, your vows and everything, you can basically just prove that was void, right? The person didn't mean it at the time. Well, I mean, if it doesn't take you very long to just immediately just start beating your fucking wife, like, you probably didn't mean those things you were saying.
Yeah, probably.
Right? Boom, annulled. Right? Okay. It's divorce is immoral, and it destroys communities. I just realized I don't really even know how I arrived at this point, but
well, I think we were just talking about marriage in general, and I think that, like, I think you're right that I think divorce is pretty much like an epidemic, like it's a problem, like a social pathology that's going on, and I think that people are getting divorced, like you said, for, like, not deal breakers a lot. And I think it's just kind of a misconception of, like, what marriage actually is, and I think that goes into what we were talking about with the spiritual view being a rare take on it. Like,
well,
people
okay,
just view it as like some sort of, like, contract with a clause you can just back out on any time, like it's an apartment you're leasing or something.
Exactly, right? And so there's the thing, right? Part of it, in my mind, comes down to identity. Okay. I think that divorce is frequently just a really, really narcissistic thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And people not understanding, like, this whole thing of just like, well, I can't live like this. I can't, you know, this person's like this and I'm like this and I just can't deal with that. And it's like, you need to understand, like, going into a relationship like this, like, you're going to change each other. Mm-hmm. Right. And, like, there's, like, I mean, I've been with my fiance for like 5 years already. Right. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff has already happened, right? Like, I'm not a version of myself that's just purely me. I'm like a version of myself that has been, like, largely informed and steered in a particular direction because of her, right? And that's what's going to happen to you when you, like, pair off with somebody for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And so just this stuff of, like, oh my gosh, like, this person is, you know, a little too naggy in this way, or, like, you know, fucking whatever things people come up with. I know. Yeah. It's narcissistic and I think that just kind of, like, a little bit of looking at marriage of being, like, you know, Slav the individual kind of dies after this. And that's not completely true. And I think it's important to, like keep a bit of your individuality. Mm-hmm. Right. But I think you know what I mean. Like, my life isn't really about me past this point. Like, mm-hmm. I'll have a wife and I'll have kids. And honestly, it's funny. I've been kind of, like, working on my vows, and, like, and I don't know, I have a hard time writing shit that isn't just, like, having my head up my ass. And so I don't want to write something that's, like, too overly intellectual sounding or something, and just lose everybody. But just kind of this idea of, like, like, oh, I think therefore I am, right? Versus, which is bad, right? Hate that shit. And versus like all my homies hate Descartes.
Yeah.
Versus the like, I have obligation, therefore I am, right? And how like, you know, if you think therefore you are, like, you know, I exist by just kind of like this state in my mind, how I'm feeling right now, and my thoughts, and like understanding like those are totally transitory, those aren't permanent, right? And making your existence kind of externalized is how you become like more real than you currently are, right? And so you know, I think about like, you know, I can be 90 years old and I'll be kind of senile, and I'll have started to lose some of the traits that make me seem like who I am, right? And kind of, you know what happened, you know how kind of when people get old and the volume kind of gets turned down on certain traits, and they're just, I'm trying to say it as like kind of a sad but beautiful kind of reality.
It just kind of gets smoothed in a little bit. You just kind of,
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like if it's just I think therefore I am, it's just that egocentric thing, then like I'm just fading away like someone in fucking Back to the Future too, right? But like I exist because like I'm known by people, right? I'm known by like my spouse and by my children and people that are gonna like succeed me, right? And I think that's really important. And I don't know, that's just kind of been like all my thoughts. And I think that probably I would be willing to say the overwhelming majority of divorces show an indication that people don't understand that.
Yeah.
And I'll say this as well, because I think this was a thing that like Pearl was talking about the other day. And one of the things that pisses me off about this fucking Pearl Davis broad is that she's just like a subhuman fucking online. I hate the word grifter because it's like a normie word, but she's just so obviously just like a grifter podcast monster.
Yeah.
But I think one thing she was saying was just like, you know, widower versus single mother, right? If you're a widower, then like there's a tragedy there, right? I think she said this. Could have been someone else. But like if you're a single mother, you've just demonstrated to everybody that like one of the most important choices in your life, you just like demonstrated a poor capacity for decision making, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to that, right? And so again, it's like, you know, one thing to keep in mind, and this is a white pill, the divorce rates, people talk about how divorce rates are like 50% or something like that. The important thing to acknowledge there is that it's kind of like infant mortality back in the day. Those are inflated by repeat offenders, right? Which is to say most people, like big time, most people don't get divorced at all, right? But there are a certain segment of people that get divorced like 5 fucking times, right? And they bring the number up big time. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, on one hand, it's like, you know, narcissism. And then just kind of on the other, like, I think that the secularization of marriage, people just not understanding the metaphysical quality to it. You're going to go through an ontological shift from this, right? It's going to change the essence of who you are. I think that also demonstrates this shit, right?
I think there's a lot there. I think number one, I think people like will get married or get into a relationship and then like want who you both are and what that relationship is to like freeze in that moment for all of eternity. And that's just not really what happens in reality. Things change. You kind of like the relationship itself evolves, and then you two kind of in a feedback loop with that are also going to evolve and change and also with each other. And so there's this like alchemy that's happening where everyone's kind of, you know, changing along with this process. And I think that people are really restless. And so as soon as it's not like immediately, you know, what I thought it was going to be or stuff like that, people start looking for a way out. And I also think that like we have a really really restless and like ADD kind of culture, especially with like, with with dating apps and stuff like that, the prevalence of an accessibility to just be like, oh, well, I'll just find someone else, or oh, like maybe there's someone out there that's like more, financially like fit, like richer or looks better or whatever, that you can just kind of like, if whatever the problem is, you can just be like, oh, maybe I'll find someone that's more that in a positive way of what I'm looking for, and just whip out a phone or whatever and swipe immediately. So there's like access to quickly, look for other avenues. And so I think that people are getting into relationships, and like a lot of people are getting married with the wrong conception of kind of what it is, like you're saying. And it is a secular conception, and it's like just kind of as something that we're doing. It's just like, this is just kind of an agreement, like a business agreement. It's not like there's nothing else below the surface that's going on. There's nothing that's like between us that's happening that's going to affect our lives and the lives around us. Like they don't view it as like a vocation. That's what you're giving your life to. It's more kind of like, this is just something that people do. And I think that that's not a proper way to view it. And I think that, there's people are getting divorced for things that like you really just should have counseling for, maybe, or try to work out with more patience and time, and like, or maybe go into a priest for counseling, whatever it is. Like I think that people just quickly jump for the easy way out. Like I was driving home the other day and I saw a billboard on the side of the road, and it was just like, be happy again, divorces. And then it was like a lawyer that does divorces, and like a phone number, and it was like, call this number. And so like, it's so easy to make that step now. There's no like consequences or anything. So people in this restless, impulsive and compulsive manner, they're just going to be like, oh, well, we're done here. Like after one fight. And I think that's just how people are kind of viewing things now. Cause it's just like, you live in the like economy of relationships or something, and you can just be like, all right, well, I'll just go back on the market,
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, oh, I didn't like this product I bought, so I'm gonna take it back with the receipt. And it's funny because when you were like, "Be happy again," I thought that the billboard was gonna be like for just like, "Don't get divorced," like the African husband, "Be happy again." But like,
be happy, smile when I get home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, it's a whole thing, and I think that it's a little microcosm of our culture in general, the way people do this. And it's another example of like, we all probably know at least some boomers who are like, kind of based by contemporary standards, and don't like the dang wokers, and I don't even know, I never say that word, the dang blue-haired liberal, and you look at the topic we're talking about though, and it's a really good example of how like, those old people got us here,
right?
Big way. And like, I don't fucking care that much at the end of the day if you like don't, if you are a huge MAGA supporter and you don't like that they're putting fucking porn in front of kids in public schools. I mean, good, oppose that, but also like, you guys brought us to this point, and you're still running on a lot of the software that like easily morphed into what we're seeing now. And like, you're on your fucking fifth wife now. Shut the fuck up, Yeah. So there's that.
And I think there are, of course, legitimate, like you were saying, like abuse or whatever. I think infidelity, repeated infidelity and disregard for that, it's like that, I think, is a reason. That would be reasonable. I don't know, like in the eyes of what churches or whatever, but I think that for me, that's something. I think that infidelity has been pretty normalized in our culture too. And so I think that that's another issue of like,
I remember
why
in the
divorces
past,
are happening a lot.
I was going to a therapist, and she had said something that I still remember to this day, which was like, she was like a kind of relationship sex therapist. And she just happened to be the person I was seeing for recovery, like from drinking. But she also, I guess, kind of specialized in that. So I won't read into that too much. I'm sure
that makes sense, dude. There's a lot of that, I feel like.
Well, it was funny because in one of the groups I was in, because I would like do
group meetings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was some fucking black lady that was like a sex addict, and she was
Mhm.
actually really annoying. And I like kind of, well, whatever. I kind of don't think that that's. It can be a thing, but it's not a. You know how things can be a thing, but also kind of not really. You know,
Yeah.
it's like I think you can have an addiction to basically anything, but
Right.
like it's not really the same as being addicted to drugs. It's not like
I
you're
think
kind of
behaviorally it's the same, but maybe not like chemically or like biologically.
yeah. Well, not even. I mean, behaviorally, yeah, but it's complicated. Anyways, point is, she had said to me just something of like, like because affairs happen, infidelity does just happen, these are realities, and it's like
Right.
I understand what she's saying, like especially if you're like working with the public in that way, but it's also like it doesn't just happen. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like if I like cheated on my fiance and I'm just like, well, also this just happens,
Just
it's
what's
like,
going to happen today in this world.
no, it doesn't just happen. And I don't know. And people probably, a lot of people might not really like hearing this, but you have to acknowledge there's some validity to this point, which is like, if you get cheated on by your husband, right, or your wife, right, that's a tragedy, and it's you've been victimized, and it's sad, but also you failed in selecting the right person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem. That's partially your fault,
Right.
and
usually there's a whole litany of other issues too, which goes along with that fact that it's just like those things are just kind of popping up as cracks in this foundation that wasn't set properly in the first place.
Exactly. And that's what dating or courtship is for, is so
Right.
that you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is another consequence of just not taking the shit seriously enough.
Yeah.
Anyways, point is, I mean, I guess I'll get back to my fucking wedding. It's like we're talking about my wedding and then I'm just talking about divorce constantly.
Shit, that doesn't bode well.
Oh fuck. But no, man, like I'm stoked about it. I think one thing that I like, this is going to just all sound like hilariously negative stuff, but like me and my girlfriend argue all the fucking time. Okay. We argue all the fucking time. And like, I love it. Right. Because she's like really, stubborn and I'm really stubborn.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just never going to be a situation where this didn't happen.
Right.
And so I kind of, and honestly, this is a type of couple that needs to make a comeback in our wider culture. Just like old married couple that just argue all the fucking time, but just love each other.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would, there's no situation where I was ever going to be with somebody where I just never argue with them.
Of course.
It was just going to be, like in a past relationship I'd had, all that kind of just gets sublimated and then I like just hate myself or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
if you're not arguing, there's a problem.
Exactly. Right. And yeah, like we're both a fucking pain in the ass. And that's like, I don't know. That's something I'm kind of stoked about, to be honest. Cause it's also just like, it's not, here's the other thing, right? I know of some couples that kind of just have decided to just do the thing where they're like, oh, we're just going to be kind of like bug men together.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is okay. Here's my other thing. If you like don't have any plan of having children and like starting a family, I'm not going to maybe go so far as to say you like shouldn't get married, but like you don't have a marriage built around matrimony, and like that's not really what a marriage is, right? And so and again, I don't, maybe I'm saying something that's a little divisive to people, but if people are getting married just to basically just be the two of them forever and that's it, basically, I like don't totally get that. And one of the big ways, one of the big points, I guess, in ways that I see this is that like I've seen couples that just kind of want to like just hang out together, mm-hmm. right? And just like, oh, we're gonna be, I mean, you've seen this, right? There's like whole genres.
Self-isolate.
Exactly. There's this whole No, exactly. Right. And that's, well, you know what that is? That's just nesting without children. That's what nesting becomes with birth control. Right. And it's like a whole genre of TikTok of just these couples that just have like rows of Funko Pops and are just like, well, like have kids and like pursue metaphysical, transcendent meaning in my life and becoming a dynamic person that changes with the seasons of my life. How about I just go to fucking Disneyland instead and like, go on. I can go on
girl bossing.
Exactly. And okay, there's somebody that we know who had this like really great point, and I think this is kind of beautiful. Where they were like, they got married, and they were like, well, we should think about having kids, and the husband was like, and obviously these are secular people because they didn't know before they got married, right? And he's like, well, I don't know, like there was all this stuff I wanted to do, and we won't be able to do that when we have kids. So give me 6 months or a year to just see what happens, right? To try those things. I want to go on a vacation. I want to do all these exciting things, right?
Yeah.
And he gets like just a couple months into it, right? And he's like, I have spent my whole fucking life not going on these big adventures, right? And I gave myself like a year to go on these adventures, and I still haven't. And it's just like, maybe I'm just not someone who's going to go on big adventures. Maybe I just want to be a fucking father. And like, which isn't to say that's not an adventure in its own way, but just there's something about that. And this is something we've talked about. It's the Peter Pan syndrome thing, right? Like there's a death that you need to go through when choosing something that's static and well-defined and limits your options versus the really abstract infinite potential of no decision. And put yourself to the test, like put a time limit on it, right? 6 months to go on one of these big, great adventures that parents can't have. And it's like, you're not, that's not gonna, you get what I'm saying. And I don't know. Yeah. I really love that story.
I think there's a couple things to that. Like, I think that number one, I think it's a misconception because I think you can still do things with children. You can still have great experiences. You can still like go on vacations. There's things you can still do with children, and people still do it all the time. But I mean, I understand that that's like, you have to stretch to make it happen. And of course there's a reality to what he's saying in that sentence. But also I think that, there's something to, if he wants to go out and do that, set a year or whatever, go out and venture. I think that like, if you know that about yourself, then go out and do it. Like, do like a Rumspringa kind of thing, because you're going to find out that like, that's not really what it's all about. And then you're going to come back and be like, yeah, let's have fucking kids and let's do this thing. Like, because that's like, you're not going to be really getting like what you're after from doing all these, like, you can go on however many vacations you want, but it's not fulfilling in the same way. Yeah. And it's kind of like, you're going to have that like Chris McCandless moment, to bring it back to Into the Wild, where it's like, you're going on this grand adventure or whatever, but then you find yourself and you're like, oh shit, like really the happiness comes from the people I'm like building a life with. And like doing that, like the next step in that is having, children with my wife. And so I think those would be maybe a positive if you want to take that time and go and do that. But then also if it turns out, like you said, and you just don't end up doing anything, it's like, look, you're not going to do that anyhow. Why does it matter if you have kids or not? And if you're someone who really wants to be still active and whatnot, you can be an adventurous family. I know those people. Like they go out and like hike 14ers or do whatever as a family with small kids, or they go on like van trips around the country.
That's usually a really good trait for a parent to have.
For sure, dude. It'll teach your kid about the world and open them up to new experiences at an early age, make them well-rounded.
Yep, 100%. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited about it. This is somebody who I've like really developed with a lot, and I think that goes like both ways. I mean, this wasn't even close to what our plans for the future were when we first started dating, right? I mean, we weren't really serious. We weren't serious about anything. We weren't really even serious about the relationship. And
this
then
is pre-COVID. They all got together.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Then we fucking lived through a fucking pressure cooker,
right?
And it's wild because it's like what was that?
The accelerator machine. Essentially, you're like, whoa, let's get our priorities straight. We need to like actually like live a good stable life, get settled down.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the thing, is like you just go through this tunnel and then you come out completely different people that like are 100%. These versions of ourselves have like not lived a day before, knowing the other, basically. You know what I mean? And so that's beautiful, and I'm stoked about that. I don't know. I don't want to jizz all over the place too much about my relationship. We can get to more specific.
Yeah, well, I mean,
but
I figure I have a couple of like questions or topics we can kind of go off on, or regards to like the upcoming wedding, because like you said your bachelor party is this weekend, so this is.
Well, and I just worry this isn't interesting. Like you tell me. I don't know.
I think it's interesting.
Okay,
I think
cool.
it's something that people like are interested to hear about, as far as like the inner workings of like how does it go from like a casual relationship, like you said you were in more so in the beginning before COVID, into like, oh, this is someone I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Like, I think that in our modern, society, a lot of people have issues with making commitments or like any type of thing like that. And so it's just something that's interesting for people to hear. So I think there's a lot to it. We don't have to get too specific about like anything that's too personal or anything like that. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of go over a little bit of stuff. We talked a little bit about the wedding, but the only other thing I had about that was just like, you have more feelings of excitement really than you have like of stress or like any kind of like nervousness or anything with like how the day is going to go. Because I know that like the whole planning of a wedding and all that can be a headache. And I know you've kind of spoke to how much you've been doing, just being busy all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I want to preface it by saying like she's done way more of the work than I have.
Of course,
so I can't
it should be.
Well, it's kind of common, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, for sure.
But like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be excited to not have like a deadline hanging over our heads. We're having kind of, I mean, you're coming, and so like we're not having a super hyper formal thing.
Yeah,
but like it's, especially when you like arrive and everything, there's like some big moving parts. It's kind of a. And so it's not a really formal thing, but it is kind of a big thing. And so that's nice because I think about it like this. And it's funny, she's probably gonna listen to this at some point.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, she generally listens to the podcast. So hi. So, but I say that by saying she's heard this metaphor 1,000 times. Think about like a shirt that has colors versus just a plain white shirt, right? A colored versus a white. No mixing them. No, I'm just kidding.
Shit.
So one little tiny bit of mustard off of your hot dog on that white shirt, it's fucked. Right, one little bit on the shirt with colors doesn't really stand out that much.
It just adds to it a little bit.
It's same thing with like bed sheets or something like that, right? You get a little scab that opens up on your knee. It looks like somebody got murdered in your fucking bed if you have white sheets, right? Okay, our wedding, because it's not going to be hyper formal, it's going to be kind of rustic. It's going to be a little bit DIY. I think is probably a fair way of putting it. If things go wrong, it's not going to be like the white bedsheet effect.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And so that's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most, right? I mean, like one thing you're probably pretty aware of is like the way we're doing music, right? I mean, yeah, we have like, an aux cord with a fucking Spotify or whatever, right? But also like, I just have a bunch of musician friends and we'll just basically have an open mic, right? I mean, maybe people won't even want to fucking play. Maybe people will. It's just kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Right.
I like that approach. It's like also communal in that way too. It's like not something that's super stringent and formalistic.
Exactly. And like, well, right. And so I'm looking forward to that. We're going to have some Catholic stuff in the ceremony. We're not getting married in a chapel. And we're getting married by like my Buddhist friend. Right.
Hell yeah.
So it's honestly, part of my logic there is just like we've lived most of our lives secular. I mean, she was raised Catholic, but we've lived most of our lives secular. And so it's like, I want to be honest with myself instead of having this kind of personality about face and just be like, hey guys, like most of the time, all my friends have known me. I haven't even been like this, but now everything in my wedding is going to be this thing.
Sure.
It's like, no, we're not going to do that, right? We're going to get married in the church after the fact, but I'm not going to subject everybody to that.
Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, I mean, as far as like the stress and everything of it goes, there's like a couple choke points, you know. I gotta have a big old truck full of food, and I need to make sure that like that thing can like get past some of the checkpoints,
Right? Sure.
that you're aware of. Just shit like that, just choke points. And the way I always think of things, I basically always imagine the worst case scenario, and I plan for that.
That's
and
a good way to be.
I think that is a good way to be. And so it's like, you know, we got to go onto a ferry, right? Okay. Well, if the truck can't fit on the fucking boat, then, you know,
That's a problem.
well, yeah, it's a problem. Well, it almost certainly will, right? But if it can't, okay, well, I'm basically coming up with the whole plan of just like, all right, it's not that long of a ride. We throw all of the food from that vehicle into one of the cars and just turn the AC on and just take it straight to the venue.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Shit like that.
Bring a couple extra coolers for any like, you know, things that really need to be cold for longer.
Exactly. Right. Now, like also, you know, it's been kind of a hot summer. We're going to have an outdoor ceremony. Well, it started raining today and it's really overcast. Right. Neither of us really give a shit if it rains on our wedding day. We'll just fucking have the ceremony inside because we have the ability to, and it won't fucking matter. We don't have a ton of people coming. We have like around 60 people coming, a little over 60. That's nice. That's manageable. Yeah, it's super manageable. I mean, in my mind, that's like a perfect medium-sized wedding.
Definitely. Yeah, that's where like my favorite weddings I've been to have been about that size. I've been to a couple that are smaller and then like bigger ones as well. But I think around like 50, 60, 75 people, like 75 is like kind of tops, I feel like, where you can really have that level of comfortability with everyone where it's like you're not feeling like you're just kind of in a big crowd.
Well, think about it like this. The way we're doing it, I mean, we have this place for several days, basically. And we're all just hanging out, staying up there. Okay. So we're actually going to be able to like hang out with people.
Right.
You see what I mean? And so that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of it is like, yeah, like I'm like a little stressed about it, but it's also, and she's been saying this too. It's like, once you're just like there, it's like the die is cast.
Yeah, definitely.
And so like whatever didn't work out, it's not going to be working out. And whatever did work out perfectly, great. You know? And that's basically it.
Yeah. So, I like the approach y'all are taking where it's like, y'all are doing the wedding that you want to have. You know what I mean? It's like, you want to have people up here, make it comfortable. You want to be able to spend time with the people that are at a wedding.
Comfortable.
Yeah, we keep them comfortable before we post abort these babies.
The planes land and they send exactly. And honestly, one of the big things about that was like shopping around in the wedding industry and just seeing like, dude, you go to some of these fucking venues and they're like, okay, so like you show up at like noon or 3-ish or something like that, and you need to be like packed up and completely gone with zero trace by like 10:30, 10
Yeah,
o'clock.
that's a nightmare.
And it's like, I'm sorry, like people are going to be drunk. What do you want me to do?
Right.
You know? And it's like, and if you're not gone, we're going to charge you $2,000. And it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Whereas like you could just kind of do a DIY thing, have it cost probably less than just that venue and just be able to chill, you know? And I won't go into, too much detail about, you know, that, but yeah, I mean, we're just doing it different. And like, and I don't know, I mean, you get into that and just that whole industry and it's like, there's no love in it.
No, it's so fucked.
There's no love at all. And that's kind of just one of these things is like, you know, like, I don't like the comedian Mark Maron very much because he's just like an uber shit lib. But
he was bitching about something, dude.
Oh, he's a psychopath. But he had this joke that I do kind of like, where he's talking about like, you know, I wanted to buy this like insane tube amp that like Jack White had, and it cost like $20,000 or something. And he's like, you know, I guess I could afford it because I'm like famous and fucking rich and whatever. But like, I'm gonna sit there and I'm going to play it and I'm just gonna obsess about like, that's nice, but like that doesn't sound like $20,000.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what your wedding day is going to be like if you spend this fucking money on this venue of these people that like basically feel contempt for you. Yeah. Honestly, you go to these venues and like, this is a bizarre thing, but I go there and I'm like not handsome enough to have a wedding here.
I get that for sure, dude.
You know what I mean? Where it's the shiny, happy people having fun shit where you're just like, this is, I don't know, man. These hyper formal, buttoned up to 11 weddings are for like people that were in sororities and frats that like, not to go on some anti-chud rant or something, but like these people that just like aren't my people,
right. It's just a different lifestyle. And I think that like, I see that a lot. Like I've been to weddings.
My dad doesn't own a golf course,
Yeah. Or a house on a golf course or something. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. I go to weddings. Like I've been to some like with my cousins or whatever, where it's like, they just got they went to like a wedding venue and it's expensive for like no reason really. And it's just like this nice place, but it's just like a house.
Bro, it's a field. Like, it's a field with a canopy, man.
You're like, why did you spend so much money? Why didn't we just do this at y'all's house if you're going to do it?
Dude,
like
be like a Mexican family and get like a fucking park.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. It's like, people are just like paying all this money for a wedding venue because it's a wedding venue. And it's like, you don't need to do all that, like go through all this rigmarole and have these like specific things. Like one of my other friends, they got married pretty recently, and there's maybe like 70 people or something like that, and they just got married at like at their home. They had like a big backyard and stuff, and they just had everyone there and like had a big ceremony. And it's like, if you're gonna do something that's not like a more of an event, then you might as well just do something like that. Like or go to a church, if that's what your faith is. But I just don't really understand like just going to like a super nice venue and just like doing the venue thing and you're in and out in 4 hours, and like that's just that, because I just don't get it really. But that's a really common thing. And then also when it's like a big wedding, it starts to feel like there's just like a procession, and you're just like there to like say hello to like like someone that's going to take a photograph with you and leave, like a celebrity that's on like a book signing tour. You just go up to the couple, you're like, oh, congratulations, yeah, I won't see you the rest of the night, but and so that's never super fun. And I think it's probably overwhelming for like the couple themselves as well, when it's just like, 75 micro interactions over like 2 hours instead of just actually having time to spend time with the people that are coming. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm stoked about it. I honestly, in the face of all that stuff we're talking about, of just this dehumanizing consumer nightmare bullshit that is the wedding industry, I guess. Yeah. Like, I had always just basically figured I would just elope instead of that, right? And we're like very much not doing that. And we're very much not doing either. And so I'm really happy with it. I'm stoked. I'm excited to just like hang out with people, I mean, we're going to get up there and we're just going to finally kind of realize like there's only so much setting up that you can fucking do. Yeah. And then it's just basically just chilling, and that's going to be a blast, man. And so I'm excited to just chill. I'm excited to like fucking hang out and play D&D with the boys, and just shit like that and jam. And I mean, it's been so long since I jammed with anybody that I'm probably going to be dog shit, but like, it'll be fun, dude. We'll play some fucking music.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah. Rhythm section, baby. Let's go.
That's absolutely right. That should have been the name of the fucking podcast.
That's such, we can name this episode that.
The rhythm section. Yeah.
Well, we started at the end here kind of with, the wedding. So let's take it back, I guess. We're kind of doing like a Werner Herzog, esque podcast scheme here, where we're going to kind of start at the end, take it back to the beginning, and then bring it back to the end.
It begins with and his fiance's death at the hands of a grizzly bear.
Yeah, dude. So I guess what I wanted to talk about was, I know we've talked about like you had a previous relationship, and we've talked about, that left you kind of heartbroken, and you've had issues, with addiction kind of in that time frame, I'm assuming. And so I'm kind of wondering like what the transition looked like from that to like getting into a more committed relationship. Like what was the like kind of what was there like a period of casual dating, and then you're like, what's going on? Like, just need to, or were you out of that relationship like, I need to get into something serious? Or was it something that came when you got more sober? Like, kind of walk me through a little bit of that.
Interesting. Yeah, I like this. It's fun. This is going to be the most parasocial episode we've ever put out.
Yeah, I think there's still insight to gain though, even if it's
well,
not like...
no, there is. And I mean, you see my notes that I made for the episode. I mean, I'm going to try to zoom this out as much as I can. And also, to be fair, to be realistic here, people like the fucking parasocial thing. So whatever, right? People want people want to fucking know about us. So I guess I'll lean into that a little bit.
Well, there's a lot of dudes out there and women too who have like had hard relationships or like have their heart broken, and then they're like, or people who have had a lot of casual dating that's not gone right, and people who are looking to make the next step. So I think that there's a lot to be gained from it.
Okay, timeline goes like this: Slav has relationship. Slav gets heartbroken. Slav has addiction problem that's kind of mixed in with the relationship also. Like that's usually not quite as kind of leads to the ending of it, right? And then for next probably couple of years, Slav is basically just trying to like be grounded mentally to put together a person. Right? And this is where actually I think this is a good fucking topic. Is the way I met my fiance was and I had forgotten about this. I had actually forgotten about this until my best friend, one of my best friends, but my best friend, the best out of all of them, he wins the competition. Is yeah, exactly. They all, the rest of them suck. Had reminded me of this, that like I had just kind of made this really conscious effort. I was living with him at the time to just be going out constantly, right? And so like just kind of, the whole idea, like you have your home, you have your work, and you have your third place, right? And so I would like get off work, and then I would just like insist on going to at least like 2 other places that day, right? And just like, all right, I'm gonna go out to a show tonight, or I'm gonna go to the beach, or I'm gonna go to this. There was like, we have like barcades in Seattle. I'm just gonna go all over the place, right? And at this point, I'm sober. Right. And yeah, I mean, that's basically just what happened was like, I just went to like a coffee shop after work, and that's where I met her.
Oh, nice. Really? It was like a meet cute kind of situation.
Yeah. No, I mean, there was never any online mediation or awesome. Anything like that. It was literally like man walks into place, speaks to woman, and then gets woman's phone number, sets up date, goes on date.
Nice, dude. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, funny thing is, I actually stood her up on our first date because I was nervous.
You're nervous? Hell yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of funny because, I mean, she rightfully gives me shit for that.
Did she give you shit for it at the time, or did you, like, how did that go?
Yeah. Well, she would have to, right?
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, it was awesome. And, and then, okay, continuing the timeline, but that's an important detail that I want to go back to, is that I had intended, right, to, and I think I was just on the tail end of going through my recovery program. I was just like, I need to constantly be going out places. Yeah. I need, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I remember it's like this Phoenix style, like death and rebirth cycle, right? My old self dying. And then you come to this new self, and it's like, well, I'm a baby of my future self. Right. And so like a baby, I just want to cram my head full of information and new experiences.
Yeah. And you got to put yourself into a social setting and like put your new self out into the world so you can like actually actualize that self. Cause like we said before, you're not, I think, therefore I am. These people know me as this. And so therefore I am. And that's what I am. And so you got to be able to put that actually onto the tapestry of social relations.
Exactly. And so like I got myself better established. I strengthened my old friendships that I'd had all my life, but that had been weakened from my addiction. Right. I met my future wife. I met one of my friends who's now like my employer. I made a bunch of friends with music and things like that. And then, continuing the timeline, like I said, that's just an important aspect of it, because that's like a prescriptive thing that I would say to people. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to maybe kind of hang out on that for a bit, if you don't mind, before we accelerate the timeline, because that was one of the questions, was kind of just like,
well, I'll wrap up the timeline really fast because there's literally like 2 more beats on it, which is just like, we started out kind of unserious, and then and then Seattle being Seattle, moved in together because of the usual millennial thing, which is just like housing is dumb.
And how quick was that?
Like a year.
Okay.
And I think that's dumb. Like, I think people should not do that.
Yeah.
Right. I think we did basically everything wrong. And then we lived.
Well, if you're still
COVID.
together and it's a healthy relationship, then boom, that's a good way to start.
But, and this is the thing I say to her all the time, but, right, you can't just, I'm not going to raise my kids to be like, okay, well, you know, you can just do everything wrong. You can do this and you can do that. And then eventually, like a couple years into the relationship, they'll just be like this global, unprecedented pandemic. And like a bunch of people, you know, will turn on you and you'll just form this holding position with the other person that will fundamentally change who you are and alter the course of your life, making it so that you people are just like soulmates now.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Recommend that. But like you started from the fire and you made it your way out. So that's good.
Well,
like, you know
true. And I take that same thing to the faith too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, I think that people that come in through the back door, right? Like people that maybe know how shitty the alternative is because they've lived it, make stronger believers, right? And kind of the same thing with like a love or something, right?
Yeah, there's personal conviction that becomes attached there.
Exactly. So anyway, but that's the timeline. It, you know, it didn't take too long, but back to what you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, you mentioned that you made a, conscious effort to go out and be out in public and be, like, in social settings, like, post-recovery.
You got to be doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's not just a recovery thing. Like, people just need to fucking do that.
In
guys specifically need to fucking do that.
Yeah, I think everyone does. Like, we're too quick to become the bugmen. You know what I mean? Like, too easy.
Well, everybody does. Everybody does, but males isolate more than women do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that makes sense. Women are a little bit more social creatures.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, like the silent, strong man type that's kind of like, you know, hanging out, fighting demons in his head or whatever. That's a classic trope.
Right. Guy standing in the corner of party. They don't know I'm fighting demons. But at least he's at the party, you know?
Right. Yeah, see, that guy's healthier than the guy that's like, you know, down in the basement scribbling, you know?
Exactly. Me.
So, yeah. You got to go out, put yourself in social situations and do that. When you were going out,
can I just say really fast too, because I was talking to her about this recently, and one of the things is like one of the biggest fucking things that limits people from doing that is their desire to seem cool all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Like you need to be able to be vulnerable. Right. And I don't know, like sometimes I'm a little bit loath to talk about vulnerability as such a lot of the time, because sometimes it feels like a little bit too effeminate. Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a way, and it's true. Like I don't disagree with the content of it, but it's just like, there's like a slightly less, I don't know. You get what I'm saying.
I think it's fine to talk about feminine stuff sometimes. Like I think that like everyone has a little bit of femininity and masculinity.
But it's just like, what's the fucking masculine aspects of like therapy? You know, like there's there's never any, right? And so it's like it's always just in one direction. But point is, and so honestly, so I think like a more masculine way of putting it is just like being able to look like an ass sometimes. You know, that's the manly way of putting it. Is it needs to have swears.
Yeah, look like a dipshit sometimes.
Yeah, look like a fucking piece of shit, dipshit, cocksucker, fuck. And so, and just being able to just go out and just be like, I like am completely unfamiliar with the situation, and I don't have a playbook to go on. I'm totally not. It's a socially unsafe situation. I don't mean like unsafe like you're going to be raped or something, right? I mean like unsafe, right? Like like
not comfortable, not the comfort zone.
Exactly. Like playing music live is like a beautiful thing, right? Because it's like you can just listen to music, you can just play music by yourself, right? But like there's this kind of bizarre thing that we do where we just thousands of years ago just decided to be like, all right, I'm just going to like stand up in front of people.
Yeah, and then they can judge me about it.
Exactly. And to be honest, like after like recorded media, it's even more bizarre.
Yeah.
And it probably proves the point even more that it's just like, well, why the fuck? Why do you need to do that? COH, like when you're going up on stage and you're just like, okay, well, there's this thing that I can do any old time, but for absolutely no reason at all, I'm like choosing to just be like man on wire about it and just be like, all right, like if I fuck up doing this, I'm also now for no really good reason risking just like wide social humiliation.
Yeah.
but like it creates something magical.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, man. That's what I like about it so much is the vulnerability aspect, because it puts your feet to the fire, and like it forces you to like show your stuff, like really be about your shit that you're talking about, and it'll expose what your areas or weakness are, and then you can know about them and work on them for personal growth. And then also like what I like so much about the improvisational music that we do is like, we'll go out there and we'll just jam for a while. We'll have sections in a song where it's like, here we're going to do improv in this key, and then like let it go wherever it wants to go. And sometimes it's better than other times, of course. Like there's sometimes where you're like, man, this is the shit, and then other times you're like, you're kind of just fumbling around till you find something that feels good. And I think that like it takes that fumbling around to have the magic of hearing something new for the first time, where you're like, whoa, that's a cool lick that he just played. And so like, let's lock onto that. And like, then we're going to really create something cool. But it takes, putting yourself on that limb and like being comfortable enough to, fuddle around a little bit. And maybe, it gets, it's a little bit stale for a second or whatever, but out of that staleness is where new things come from. And it's kind of like a little bit like the Byung-Chul Han thing of like the boredom, just like, you got to be willing to like, experience something that's not necessarily preferable or super enjoyable or whatever, or risky.
Yep. The Burnout Society brings you infinite fucking Star Wars sequels, as opposed to being like, no, I want to like try something new. And maybe you go and you see a movie that like is not something you'd normally see. And maybe it's like super fucking dumb. And you're like, oh, well, like, okay, I guess like I didn't really like watching Willem Dafoe scream in a lighthouse at Batman.
Jerk off and fuck a lobster.
Yeah, jerk off and fuck a lobster. I don't know why you wouldn't like that, because that movie is, I maintain, like probably the best American film I've seen in like 10 years.
Really? I don't know if we've ever talked about the lighthouse before.
Dude, we should do an episode on
let's do it.
Not the lobster. I mean the lighthouse.
Yeah, I mean the lobster too. We could talk about the lobster if we want.
Dude, honestly, I like the lobster.
Yeah, I am fine with the lobster. I don't know why I associate this, but I watched Tusk the other day for the first time. You've seen Tusk?
That fucking movie. I think it's
it was some bullshit. Yeah.
I hate Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith is a fucking bug man.
Who's Kevin Smith?
He's Silent Bob. He directed that movie.
Oh, I don't really trust him very much.
No, he's sick.
Yeah. Anyhow, we don't need to talk about movies too much. We'll do that on the
bonuses. I will say I've been loving our film bonuses. I'm loving it. Anyways, so I mean, just be vulnerable, allow yourself to try new things, you know what I mean? And like it's really important. I mean, I know people who just have like really small limited scopes of their life, right? But like they maintain, and again, this is kind of that Peter Pan thing, right? Like because of that, they don't need to suffer the pain of like an experience that kind of brings them down to peg a little bit, and shows them who they are, and more importantly, like probably who they aren't, right? But if they don't go and encounter those situations, then they get to just be all of those people that they think they might be in their head, because they don't have anyone come in with the negation, right? And say, no, you're not the smartest person here, right? Or no, you're not the coolest person here, or the most handsome person, or even just like, you're just not this new hobby that you're trying out for the first time. You're not like the best person in the world at it. Right. And so that's fucking huge. And yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like, it's also like, there were probably plenty of times at that point where I'm going out and I'm just like, I would really like to just get a GF now, please. You know, yeah. Can you just spit out a GF out of the vending machine, please? And I'll even take one with some mental illness. That's fine. And you do it long enough to where, and it's a fucking chore. Like go out constantly, right? And like do it even if you don't really fully want to, because it's what you're supposed to fucking do, right? Then eventually you kind of just stop getting as impatient with it, and you stop thinking about wanting a GF from it constantly. And then fucking women just sense that
magic happens.
And then suddenly you find GF, who in my case didn't have mental illnesses, which is great.
Thank God. Yeah.
And, though, I would have loved you even if you did, honey. Yeah.
that gets into another thing I was going to ask, because I feel like there's a couple
Does she
of
have
schools
mental
of thought.
illnesses?
Well, no, I trust and believe that she doesn't. I believe that she's a good, upstanding woman. And, you found a good one. I'm not going to say anything bad, about her, especially not on air. But I think that gets into something I was wondering, because there's a couple of schools of thought on like going into relationships. I think that there's like the active mind, where it's like, you're on dating apps, you're like, or you're going to like mixers or socials or blind dates or whatever. And then there's like, people who kind of want it to passively find them, or like kind of come along. And I think what you're kind of describing is like a process of going from one to the other a little bit, of just kind of being like setting out actively to be like, I'm putting myself in social situations. I'm meeting new people to widen my net of like who I will interact with, so I could bring new people in my life that may be, seeding the ground for, potential relationships, whether it be friendships, serious, intimate.
Well, and also say
whatever.
this, by the way, too, as a really quick side note.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make yourself a fucking interesting version of yourself. Okay.
Right.
So like I was reading a lot more back then. I was like playing in a bunch of fucking bands. I was doing a bunch of hobbies. I was working, right? But like I was doing a bunch of things. And I think that also is like a nice kind of incidental consequence. Like that happens in tandem if you're going the strategy that I went, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. Is that it's like you're going out to see more life. And the nice thing about that is that your net is widened, like you just said, but also like you're a more fuckable person because you have a fucking life.
Right. Yeah. And then life will come to you a little bit because you're opening up your scope that way. And
exactly. And you do get what you give, and you get it back like threefold. You really do. Like that's like a big Wicca thing, right? But like, but that's the thing I've heard, right? But like God does just like provide for you if you just believe in yourself enough.
Yeah.
And believe in God, right? I mean, I don't really love the believe in yourself thing, but just believe in the process, right? Because I've always pretty consistently in my life just found like if you just put the honest work into something and you actually do, right? And I'm not talking about like going through the motions and like, oh, I'm half paying attention, but like get into a flow state with something and fully focus and put an honest full effort into it. Like I'm still in the habit of, in a secular way, saying like the world or the universe, but I hate that. Like God will provide things for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I totally cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was just kind of gonna just say like, what you talked about, that being like an active thing versus a passive. And so I think that one question I had was like, were you using dating apps and stuff like that? Or were you like, did you have an intention of, I'm just going to meet someone in person, or anything like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've used a dating app before.
Right. I think everyone has.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever, I've never gotten a date from one ever.
Oh, really?
I haven't really. My experience with them is very limited, though. To be fair,
yeah.
I like had a pretty hard time in high school, and so basically, like the second I was done with high school, I like just deleted all my social media.
Sure.
And so that, I mean, it's just you can kind of fill in the gaps there, right? Like dating sites, dating media makes me really uneasy. I don't really know how to interact with it. And then I really like having an anonymous Twitter account where I just like shit out funny thoughts or something.
Yeah.
Right. So like, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I like never really had much luck with dating apps. I think I've met a few people that had really, really great luck with them for finding actual like spouses.
Yeah.
And I think that that's outstanding. I don't really fault anybody. I don't think that they're like less worthy or legitimate or anything like that. Nothing like that. Right. I do think that like the kind of incel view of love and dating is kind of a product of the kind of like acceleration that the centrality of dating apps has caused.
Could you elaborate a little bit on what you mean by the incel mindset towards dating and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, like hypergamy, right?
Oh,
Like,
okay. Like I don't have the right genes or whatever to actually be accepted in like a relationship pool
well,
or
yeah, I
whatever.
mean, people that are like into looks maxing and shit like that,
Hmm.
sure, but like hypergamy is in like women are simply like social climbers.
Oh, okay. I see.
And so actually only like the top 1% of people are getting 99% of the pussy. The
Right.
top
Okay.
point one of point, which is like kind of true a little bit, but people really over. I think this is a thing that like Radfem Hitler on Twitter talked about recently, and I
Hmm.
and I, I was actually talking to my fiance about this, and it's really interesting. Like the reality of it is that like the sluts are just all basically kind of fucking each other a
Hmm.
bunch, and then there's kind of like a normal huge population of people that are kind of just like pairing off normally,
Yeah.
right? Now I think that people fall into like serial monogamy because people don't properly frame marriage,
Right.
but like most people aren't just going and like just meat grindering through people.
Yeah. I
And
think I think some people do. I think that for the most part, the image of like what women are looking for in dating, as far as the hypergamy thing, is definitely overplayed online as a result of like the manosphere kind of proliferation, and then also like
well,
what
just
the reality of
dating
dating
apps.
apps is. Yeah.
Exactly. And no, I mean obviously there are people that are very promiscuous, right?
Hmm.
But like just this idea that that is the norm
Yeah.
is very off base. It really is.
Hmm.
Now it might be a little bit more accurate of like how people were in the 50s, right? Because birth control has like changed social dynamics a lot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But just again, like just this whole like no, you think that the dating world is just like this fucking meat grinder because like the dating world for you is a fucking app that's just
Hmm.
commodifying people
Right.
and is just social Darwinism, and like you need to kind of understand that's not anyways, and
Yeah.
honestly part of the problem is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Hmm. Hmm.
um
Absolutely.
so
It's
I
self-defeating. Like you're just like, oh, I'll never end up doing this and that and whatever, and then you go into it like with this mindset, and then you get bitter towards women or whatever, and like you become
exactly.
just like a person no one really wants to be around, and it's not a
Well,
healthy
here's
thing.
dude, and here's the other thing. My fiance was saying this the other day too, and it's a fucking good point too. Like the overwhelming majority of people I know that are in relationships with people that are like basically equal to them on like the 1 to 10 look scale.
Hmm.
Like people of a pretty equal attractiveness end up with each other.
Yeah, it
This
just works
whole
out.
our brains just sort ourselves that way
Yeah.
basically. And so like
It's so interesting. That's something I've always thought about it since I was a kid, dude. Like honestly, I'm like,
yeah.
so how do people just like how do you end up getting sorted down? Like you see a chubby dude that ends up being with like a chubbier woman, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Y'all are about right, but like that's just like, is that what you both are attracted to, like, or is that just what you've kind of like decided is like what is for you, and kind of like what is the dynamic of this happening over time? And I think it's just, yeah, you just kind of like find out what works for you and what doesn't, like what's available to you and what's not, and that's kind of how that forms.
Yeah, it's just kind
um
of a hierarchy thing, and that's
yeah,
fine.
socially constructed generally.
And like, well, I don't think it is socially constructed. Like, I think that there's just something. It's so widespread. It's so that I think there's something just natural about it. I think our brains are just kind of like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
we're
Well, yeah.
basically in the same ballpark.
Yeah, I don't mean the socially constructed as in like it's like a fixed construct or like a
I think
norm that
I
you've
get what you're
fallen
saying
into.
now. I
More
get what
so
you're saying.
like something that you figure out through the tapestry of personal relationships on a social setting.
Totally.
So after that like process of sociality, you figure it out. Anyway, so yeah, man. So that I think that's pretty true with like I with my relationship on dating apps, I've found it's just generally not super healthy. I've had a lot of casual things off dating apps when I was younger. I haven't had like a meaningful long term relationship, I wouldn't say, off a dating app. I've dated someone for a little while that I met, but it wasn't like something serious. And I think that it's kind of grounds for less serious relationships, usually like a dating app. And then yeah, it creates this weird thing where you're viewing people in such a commodified form. So I've sworn off dating apps pretty much for like the past couple of years, and have been just kind of OG method of, yeah, like you're talking about, going out and putting yourself in front of people, widening your social net, etc. I think that what you're talking about of like just making yourself a more interesting version of yourself, it's kind of like just being a genuine person that has interests that are your own, you know, like someone who is passionate and has a sense of direction in their own way is something that's intriguing, and you want to be around that. Like even just around friends, you want to be around friends that are like doing stuff that is productive and meaningful, because you know that energy spreads, and so people are attracted to someone that has shit going on. So like just going out and putting yourself in situations, things kind of naturally will develop in that way. And so, but what I've kind of found is like, I kind of went through a period for a while where you were talking about like after your sobriety, which is kind of lined up a little bit with me with like getting off of doing so many drugs and kind of like being more teenager minded about like just how I engage with the world. I went through a period of kind of just like, you know, having to bottle down and kind of just take care of myself for a little while and make sure that I was a healthy person and in the right situation to like actually be able to be a good half of a long-term relationship. And I think that that's something that is important to do. And I think you spoke to that a little bit. And I think that like in that period of time, it's okay to like take casual relationships and stuff like that. And then like if something serious comes up, you know, I don't think you should say no to like a meaningful relationship or whatever. But I think it's good to like take some time and get yourself in order. And then if you know have casual encounters maybe, or put yourself out there to like kind of figure out what you're looking for in a person, and continue to develop your chops as far as like social, figuring out who meshes well with you and stuff. But I think that it's good to like take a step back and like kind of collect yourself and figure out like what is it that you're actually looking for? Who are you as a person and like individually, before you start kind of trying to jump around from relationship to relationship, like you were talking about with serial.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would say like I think like both of us, me and my fiance, definitely like learned from our previous relationships is just like what we're looking for somebody, from somebody, I should say. And like, and kind of honestly, kind of like what I was saying about the, like, I was never going to end up with somebody that wasn't just, that I didn't just argue with a bunch. Right. I don't want to
knowing yourself and like, what you're like in a relationship dynamic as well. And
exactly.
Being okay with it.
And like in my previous relationship, it was just like, no, like I'm just a piece of shit and I need to change myself to be better for this person. Right. And it's like, no, like, now we're just both kind of pieces of shit, and I love it. You know, I'm like joking, obviously, but you know what I mean, right? Or like, or like you don't want to be with somebody who just, you know, if you are, kind of, I guess, like stubborn. You don't want to be with someone who's overly passive, right? I mean, that's one of the things with us, right, is that like I call her out on her shit,
right,
and
that's healthy.
Which I'll be honest, I think is kind of an issue with guys these days a lot of the time. At least just judging from some fellas I know and just the kind of shit that they tolerate.
Right.
And I'll say, right, it's just one of these things of like, you know, you're a detriment to the other person if you don't allow yourself to call them out on bullshit. So I agree with what you're saying. I mean, I think I don't necessarily want to encourage anybody to like get up to like risky behaviors or anything. But yeah, like, you know, date, learn what kinds of people exist and kind of like what kinds of people are a good fit for you, right? And I don't know, I mean, my ex was insanely into outdoorsy shit and like did tons of hiking. Bro, I love fly fishing. I can't stand hiking, dude. Right. I mean, I'll go do it every once in a while, but like I don't fucking, there's like a whole type of person around here who's just like whole personality is like
I know that.
Yeah, it's just hiking and like shopping at fucking REI.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, there's a lot of that in Colorado and in Denver where I
know it. It's our fucking, exactly. And like, I just can't stand it, dude. I just can't. I think it's annoying. I think it's fucking annoying. Like your hobby is just going and shitting in the woods. Like, shut up, dude. Shut the fuck up. Like, it's the kind of thing that like that well-adjusted people can just be like, yeah, like I do that sometimes, you know, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't need to like have that be the thing I do. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of hit the jackpot in a way too, because I mean, me and my fiance will just sit around just being gamers together.
Yeah.
You know, so that's pretty cool. Saying gamer words.
Shit.
But dude, that's another thing too, by the way. And this was kind of a thing that I think Sam Hyde had said a while ago, but it's so fucking true. Don't look for a fucking like a trad girl or a based girl. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Like if you want to like lead like a more traditionalist kind of lifestyle, that's kind of cool and shit like that. But like, dude, like going out and women just like being really based, like,
yeah, that's a red flag, dude.
It's a huge red flag because honestly, she's just signaling for men.
Performative, yeah.
It's
100%.
performative. Women just can't be based in the same way men can be, and men can't be based in the way that women can be. Right? I mean, women will just like murder everyone in their neighborhood for like their family, right? And men will just be like, rethink the game as far as like new and innovative ways of being racist, right? But your wife is never going to be as racist as you are.
Yeah, it's a different kind of base for sure, and you should do well to keep them separated and know where the line is.
Exactly. Like I can go downstairs and like say the N-word in front of her, and she's like, and it's not going to be a huge thing, right? But like, I don't really want her to come up to me and say the N-word. You know what I mean? Like,
you don't want her texting you just in and hoping for you to fill it in after.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if you're listening, honey, like, maybe we just spice it up every once in a while, but no, you get what I'm saying though. And it's just,
well, you don't want to date anyone that's a specific type of anything. Like, you don't want to date like the hiker person. You don't want to date the based person. You don't want to date the like, you know what I mean? You don't want to date someone that builds their entire identity around like a projection of like an image of what they think they want to be. Because that's just like not going to be a well-rounded and healthy person like that can actually meet you on a real level.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you want to be with a fucking well-rounded person.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, the base thing, like, I mean, it's kind of what we were talking about with fucking crypto side. It's like, kind of, you want to be anti-base across the board. Like, you don't want to, like, if you're just like, yeah, this is like my identity is I'm a based person and I'm going to be like performative in that way. That's not good. Like, it's not a good way to be.
Also, you really need to be able to make the division between how you act online and how you act in person. There like really needs to be a pretty strong division. And like, I mean, I don't know, like, okay, to be fair, you've always been fairly decent online. Like, I feel like you're a little bit less shocking than I'll like to post, right? Like, I feel like you don't really slur post and shit like that, right? Like, and so maybe like a little bit less for like you've always been a little more wholesome, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like I know people that, will be fucking really based online, and then just in real life, like they just, because they're this completely uncompromising
they're horrible person, to be around.
Well, they just have no fucking friends.
Yeah.
And like they can't relate to people. I mean, I know people like this, and it's kind of one of these things of just like, like you think that what you're doing is having like, what's the word I want to look for? Like integrity, right? Like you're behaving the same way always, right? But it's like you need to be able to shift gears depending on who you're around. Yeah. And that's not an indication that you're like two-faced or lack integrity, right?
And you should be pro-social. Yeah, you should just be pro-social.
No, exactly. Well, and that's the whole thing, right? Is that it's like, okay, I'm over at my buddy's house the other day, right? And he has a kid, and I'm hanging out with him and his wife. And it's a really great time. And it's like, bro, like, he makes some point about how like his dad is like, he got in an argument with his dad, and I'm like, oh, what happened? And he's like, well, like, I don't want to go into it, but like my dad's a Trump voter, so he kind of communicates the way he does, right? And I'm like,
what does that mean, bro?
Well, no, it's like if somebody said that online, I'd be like, what are you, a faggot, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just like, so I respond, I'm like, oh, like, is he like kind of brash?
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, yeah. And it's just, it's one of these things like, bro, like, I'm not gonna tell my buddy that I like voted for Trump, You know, I'm not gonna call him a fag for saying that about his dad, right? Like, I'm not gonna, you know, there was like they were showing us some like little kids cartoon because the baby was around, and like in
there's
the
a time and place, you know. Like, also, it's not like, don't just like be, you know, a stick in the mud in that scenario when like your friend's just trying to communicate a vulnerable moment to you. Like, understand what's going on there.
Well, totally. I'm not trying to. I don't want to over fixate on that example, right? Just like I'm just saying, like, he brought up Trump, and like this is. I'm never gonna tell this guy I voted for Trump. I'm never gonna say a bunch of base shit I would say to him. I can be in the car going up there, you know, posting on Twitter with fucking, you know, saying slurs or whatever. I'm not gonna share any of that with my IRL friends because it's just different. It's completely different. And you need to do that. And I think like if you're bringing that kind of energy to dates, you're gonna have
you're fucked.
You're gonna have a really hard time. Dude. But here's the other thing, right? At the same time,
don't just be super permissive of everything.
Well, okay, and this is my thing, right? So like the incel view of like, oh, like hypergamy and roasties and blah, blah, it's so over, the West has fallen. Like that's bullshit and everything, right? But to the extent that I do subscribe to some of that stuff, it's like, bro, like this psyop of like single women are meant to discipline men through access to sex by basically just insisting that they're Democrats and shit like that, just insisting they're lived up, which by the way is like a tale as old as time, right?
Yeah, it's real.
It's very Lindy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a fucking problem.
The broads are all in their feelings, dude.
Dude, I saw this Lindy man post today that was like it's he was like, women smoking weed is interesting. Like taking a drug that makes you more sensitive. Women are sensitive enough. And he instantly deleted it. But I was like, that's
not based. Actually, in real life, I don't really fuck with Lindy Man very much, but I think that's
I kind of like Lindy Man, but he's a little weird.
Yeah.
But
anyways, we don't need to talk about Lindy Man.
Yeah, we don't need to. Also, as Paul Scalis, if you're listening to this, we'd love to have you on.
Oh yeah, we would definitely love to have you on. I yeah, for sure. I'm down to talk with anyone. I think what you're saying though about the online personality and stuff is like, yeah, like it boils down to just like, yeah, just be pro-social and understand the situation that you're in. Like, because like newsflash, it's like shouting slurs and like posting slurs and like super aggressive things is antisocial behavior. So like you definitely don't want to do that in real life because that's just not something that people want to be around. And so like if that's the kind of thing that you're cultivating online, yeah, you want to avoid doing that in a public setting for the most part. But I think that's like, yeah, I think it's just about being pro-social and just like, yeah, knowing what's going on. Don't like take your absurd base things into public and act like you're doing the world a favor, like the seed oil disrespecters or whatever that would take the card into a restaurant that's like, fuck you, I can't have any of your products. It's like, yeah, dude, well then don't go to that fucking restaurant.
Dude, you can't go into restaurants at all if you're that sensitive to food stuff, because like, dude, they're fucking dude, it's funny. I'll see these posts on Twitter that are just like look at these food stall workers in India touching all the food with their hands, and it's like, bro, I got bad news for you in a restaurant. If you're worried about dudes touching the food with their bare hands,
and all those Indians are fine too. That's another thing. Like they're fine even if they're touching the food with their bare hands. The people that are eating it there, like their palate's used to that kind of thing, and so they're just doing fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, I mean, to be fair, like, it is really, really common to like fucking get super sick.
Talking about wet markets.
Yeah, well, when you go to India, just like fucking you get doo-doo in your food really easily.
Yeah, if you're from here and going over there and stuff, you want to avoid those types of situations.
Yeah, but I wonder
the Indians are fine, I think.
Yeah, I wonder how like if there's any big difference between like how often like Indians in the United States get sick versus like Indian, you know, just Americans,
right?
Normal Americans, heritage Americans, we'll say.
I think it's definitely has to do with your genetic makeup and your like what you're eating usually, and what your palate is like, and what your internal like gut flora is like, because it's different. You're gonna have different microbiomes and stuff like that from foods that are over there and foods that are here, and the way that people prepare them. And so you're going to develop ways of responding to them in different ways. So like, it's kind of like, how people that are Americans would go to Mexico and get like sick from drinking the water, like Montezuma's curse, or like whatever the hell, some kind of disease revenge thing. And it's like, yeah, dude, you're just not used to drinking water that's not filtered that way. And like, people there are fine with it. And so I think it's just kind of like, it goes like that when you're traveling. So you need to just be careful and like know how to handle yourself over there. And then, yeah, wash your fucking hands, dude, if you're gonna be touching food, for sure, especially if it's raw stuff.
Pooping they food.
Yeah, but also don't just shit on some dude that's just like working a food car on the side of the road in India because you don't know him and what he's doing.
Dude, you don't know his struggles, man.
Yeah, dude, he might, gone and caught that pangolin with his bare hands.
But yeah, man, I do worry just about like dudes just like kind of here. Hold on, my dog just walked into the office and just sat down and fell asleep, and I'm like, excuse me, can I like close the door? Give me 1 sec.
Word.
Actually, hold on. I'm gonna vamp for me. I'm gonna get we're using the word vamp a lot since Joe used it. I'm gonna get some water really fast. So hold on.
Okay, cool. I didn't have any vamping in me, and so I
you just stopped it.
Yeah, and then when I accidentally clicked stop instead of pause, so it just created a whole new like recording session. But it's fine. That's really no big deal.
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Anyways, I do just worry about like basically dudes just kind of getting longhoused a little bit of like, dude, like take really good care of yourself. Go out there, make yourself an interesting person, and then just like don't settle for a woman who isn't also an interesting person.
Yeah.
Or who is going to demand that you change for her.
Mm-hmm.
That again, like there needs to be a middle ground between like a lady who's going to like say the N-word with you and like, which, if she does, that's great. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves with that in the first date. I'm telling you, brother, that's a red flag. Right. There's a middle ground between Uber based Third Reich trad wife and like woman who's never going to talk to you again and try to get you fired from your job if you like tell her that you voted for Trump.
Yeah,
right?
Dude, just go find you a sweetheart. Don't find some maniac.
Just find
either
you
way.
a sweetheart. Well, but I'll say, right? It's not quite as simple because it can be hard. It can be hard to find them, right? It can be really hard. Look at the rates at which. Well, here I'm gonna Google it really fast. Rates of prescription drugs among women. Prescription drug use was lower among males than females. Hold on. I should have just had this ready. Well, why would
it's high?
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I remember the studies. Especially about like what liberal white women or whatever. That was one specific headline I remember. It was like over 50% of them. These people are sick, literally. Yeah,
I'm not gonna be able to fucking find it, but it's insane. It is fucking insane. And I mean, what you got to do is just keep the faith, because it can be hard to meet even one girl sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Brothers can be going through quite a drought. And so it can be hard to meet a lady who, by all accounts, is just kind of a normie, right? Mm-hmm. And then just be like, nah, But like, dude, I worked at a place not that long ago that was all women. And it was just me surrounded by just like SSRI stare every day. I've
done that before. It's a nightmare.
And it was funny because there was one fucking girl who wasn't on any stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like really fucking down to earth and cool and wholesome. Yeah. But she was just crushed by just the social clique around her.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, you see that for sure. It's kind of a black pill working in like a female environment for sure.
It's a super big black pill. And so I don't know, that is just the one thing that I will warn fellas about is just like, dude, like, because we all know guys where it's just like, man, like being with this woman is like one of the worst decisions you've made in your fucking life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't want to do that. And I do think a lot of the time, like, it's kind of like what I was saying about like when you're going out and you're trying to meet somebody and broaden your horizons, and all you're thinking about for a while is just like, I'd like a GF now. Like, please give me a big titty goth GF now. And then, you know, suddenly when you stop thinking that is when you find one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you gotta just work on yourself and be okay with yourself.
Yeah, right.
And that's one of the best things you can do, right? Because this
Mm-hmm.
whole thing of just being like, people have to be with somebody.
Yeah,
right.
It's not healthy.
It's not healthy. Now, having said that, I think that you should be with somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
you
true.
Should aspire to and want
Yeah,
to be with someone.
Yeah, no, and I think like, I think people should start fucking families. I like,
Mm-hmm.
this is important stuff to do, right? But like, don't get so fused to that idea that you like end up being with some fucking longhouse monster who's gonna
Right.
who's gonna like need you to change who you are, and is gonna like trans your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people derive their value based on like the relationships that they're in, or like, you know, which I guess is, you know, to some extent it's true, right? Because it's like what you're doing with your life. But I think that like there's a kind of a mental pathology there where people just kind of like need to be in a relationship. You see it a lot with women. I feel like more so than men, even though men definitely struggle with it a lot too. But just women that kind of just like, you get out of a relationship and it's a mess, and then you're immediately into another one, and then guess what? That one's a mess too, because you haven't figured out what the issue is that's actually driving these in the first place, and you had no time to reflect on the previous relationship before you jump into this new one. And so it's just kind of like one continuous, like, you know, onslaught of unhealthy like experiences, rather than like learning and like actually contextualizing and integrating each experience and moving forward.
Yep.
I think that that one thing that about dating apps that I don't really like is what you were talking about with like when you stop looking for something, is usually like when something that's more healthy in that comes in your life. And I think that like when you're going on a dating app, you're like meeting someone for the very first time with the explicit intention of like, this is going to be a relationship. So like when you're meeting each other on this already like very interesting like kind of grounds where you're kind of being performative already off the jump, so you don't really get a chance to like meet them as they are as well in that scenario. Whereas like if you meet someone just like through regular social interaction, and then you decide, oh, maybe I'd like to get this particular or whatever, that's a more organic way of actually getting to like, oh, this is someone I'd like to spend time with, instead of like, you know, you're online, you're like, oh, this looks like someone I would want to be in a relationship with. You talk for a second just as an aim of trying to do that, and then that's like all the experience together that you have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's actually funny because we just set one of my friends up on a blind date that didn't really take.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit funny here and that. I
Well, I mean, I think you need to do both, right? Like you need to do that in order to have you need to go out and actively seek that, and like be open to getting set up with blind dates, because it may go great, and like, you know, you could be the exception or whatever, or it may just not work that way for you. But what I've found is like, I have more healthy relationships typically when they're ones that have started not under the, like when you meet someone for the first time, not just under the guise of like, we're going to be in a relationship, like not a blind date, not a dating app, but like we met organically in a social setting, or we were friends, or we whatever, worked together or whatever, and then it transitioned into that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think that like the dating app thing kind of takes away from that, and it takes away like, you know, the whole story of the meet cute. It's like, well, how'd you meet? Oh, well, we were just swiping. You know, I mean, it's not as romantic. I don't think.
I mean, it's just like what are you gonna fucking tell your kids? Like, well, she had 3 bullet points about her personality in her hobbies section that I really liked, and like that aligned really well with my the over and under of my personality profile, and this is disgusting.
Yeah, 100%.
People are fucking sickos, dude.
It's like
obviously the way to do it is to meet cute normally, and then afterwards look up your fucking astrological signs and see that you were you know, meant to be together naturally.
Yeah. Text your friend that does tarot readings and see if they can figure out what kind of astrology y'all got going on.
Exactly. But yeah, man. That's, yeah, dude. I feel like we got to talk about Trump a little bit.
Yeah, we got Yeah, it's a current event.
I mean, I'm down to talk about this a little bit more if you got anything else, but it is just funny because it's like the biggest thing going on right now, and I had talked about like I want this episode to be called "Never Surrender" and have that
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Let's do
and
that,
have
yeah.
that be like the cover, but then people are gonna like listen to this, and it's just gonna be me talking about my fucking fiance for 2 hours.
I think that's fine. There's
Oh,
nothing
it's
wrong with
completely
that.
fine. I just think it's. I know. I'm just hedging a bunch because I guess I'm being embarrassed. I'm talking about myself, but no, it's all
Well,
good.
I really only have one other thing, kind of, before we can go on to like talking about Trump or whatever else.
Yeah, let's hear it, brother.
Well, because you were talking about, you don't want to find someone that's like as based as you are in the exact same way or whatever. And it kind of brought up some things that I've, worked out and encountered in my own experience. It's like, you not necessarily looking for someone that has the same interests as you. Like I think there's a stronger relationship that's going to be built when like you have shared interests here and there, but like, everyone has their own set of interests outside of that as well. And I think a lot of people kind of go out and be like, I want someone that's into the exact same shit as me. It's like a carbon copy of me. And I think that sometimes that usually doesn't work out very well. So I was going to see kind of like where you stand with like importance of shared interest in a relationship, kind of what that looks like between you and your fiance and et cetera.
Sorry, I like spaced out for half a second there. What is the just kind of like not being perfect carbon copies of each other?
Well, just yeah, how important do you find shared interest are in relationships? Is that something that's a deal breaker? Do you need people like, and how does that look like with you and your fiance?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We were like talking about this the other day, me and her. Okay. I think that shared values are a lot more important than shared interests. Okay. Like we've never been like fishing together like once, mm-hmm. Right? That's a big thing, right? I'm big into fishing. We've never been fishing together once. Now, shame on me for that. I want to take her fishing, but she's really into sci-fi literature. I'm not really that into sci-fi literature, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, we both like video games, I guess. But the point I'm just making is that like there are like a lot more things that we could be, interested in common. But we're just not necessarily.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fine. That's actually maybe preferred.
Yeah, well, no, exactly, and like it's kind of nice, right? Because it's like, okay, I got tabletop stuff I'm doing with my buddies at my bachelor party this weekend. Mm-hmm. Well, she doesn't like that stuff all that. Thank you. She doesn't like all that stuff all that much, right? Well, it gives me like something every week to enjoy with just the boys, right. Mm-hmm. Without her. It's nice to have separate spheres and separate spaces.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think it mostly does just like come down to, I think that compatible values are the big thing, right? Mm-hmm. I think like I don't know. If you've got a chick who's a fucking degenerate or something and she wants to get you involved in some really wacky, gross shit.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, and I think it's also just like you've selected wrong, right? Yeah, because you've found somebody who doesn't have a very strong. You get what I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, mm-hmm. I don't think people need to have like a ton in common. I think that people need to like have strong values that are compatible. And honestly, that's where I do think that like, religion is really helpful because it basically determines like most of that stuff, right? Like,
yeah, it can help filter stuff out. Like you were talking about, you find out someone wants to have you do crazy, weird shit or whatever. You're like, oh, you selected wrong. And that's just something that's fine. Like, it's a learning process. You're like, oh, now I know that about myself. It's like, that's not what I should be looking for. But like, if you're already in a pool of people who have a select value system, then that kind of already self-selects that for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like, I was talking about this the other day with her that like, we know people who are kind of in a bit of a mess relationship wise lately. And, these aren't the kind of problems that you run into if you're just the kind of person who's entering into a relationship being like, well, like, it's pretty simple. Like, I want to meet somebody to get married and start a family. Right. that takes off a bunch of shit off the table that you
Yeah.
just like simply don't need to worry about. If you're upfront page 1 about that stuff, that's just not shit. These are like friends I know that are like getting cucked actively.
Right.
And it's like, well, that, and they don't know how to handle it. Right. As opposed to just fucking leaving, because if they did have the value system I'm talking about, they would be like, oh, well, this is just never going to be the mother of my children, obviously.
Yeah.
Right. And then the girl would probably be like, well, like, this isn't really behavior that like, is conducive to this path in life I'm choosing.
Right.
And so I really do think like kind of having like, even just if you want to just boil it into like a pronatalist view of the future in relationships, goes a really long way with this stuff. But yeah, I think shared values are the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, if you want to just be like some annoying fucking hiking obsessed person, don't date, somebody who's a fucking epic gamer and then freak out when they're not super into hiking or something. Right. Or just anything. Right. I mean, like, anything.
Mm-hmm. I think everyone gets so much enjoyment out of the things that they like. It's natural to try to want to share that with the people that you love. And I think that's fine and that's healthy. But like,
well, I guess to the last point I was making, it's just kind of like, I guess there is a line, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
And so it's just like, find, I think the line is just like, don't be with someone who like is constantly, oh my God, I just opened up Twitter randomly. And like the first thing that pops up, this is wild, is the fucking adults who used antidepressants bar graph in the last 30 days. Okay, just really fast. I need to. Well, to finish my last point, it's basically just like they don't need to have all the same shit interests as you, but like if it is stuff that like basically kind of forms how you're living your life most of the time,
yeah,
then there can be deal breakers. Okay, all right. Okay. Adults who have used antidepressants in the past 30 days, non-Hispanic Asian, less than 5%.
Oh yeah.
Hispanic, about 8%. Non-Hispanic Black, 10%. White, almost 25%. To be fair, all of those numbers are insanely high.
Yeah.
All of those numbers are insanely high.
Asians are pretty low, dude. Less than 5. That's pretty good.
Well, and Asians are the lowest across the board too. For men, white, 11%. Non-Hispanic Asian, like 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Non-Hispanic Black, 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And Hispanic, about 4%. So, I mean, women are over twice as,
Wow.
Yes.
It also goes to show that immigrants and minorities are based.
Yeah.
They're based. That's something that immigrant populations always like. That's the one foil, right, to like the liberal worldview fundamentally, especially within like the voting demographics. It's like, well, immigrants, they actually have pretty traditional values, and like a lot of times, like they're not gonna just like buy into this new bullshit like therapy culture and all this stuff. They're gonna be pretty, wary of that and pretty sticking to their own stuff.
Dude, 20 of any age group, 21% of women are on psychiatric drugs versus 11% of men.
Yeah, dude, we gotta get those numbers down all the way around the board anyways. That shit's so sick.
Well, and the craziest thing is that it's like a woke issue. You're not supposed to,
right?
Even it's like unethical to criticize the use of antidepressants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people want to make it like it's almost unethical if you're not like participating actively in it. Like if you're not in therapy or if you're not like whatever, it's like you're not doing all that you can or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm actually well adjusted. And they're like, yeah, but you're not getting your balls beat in every single day by some broad with a clipboard? And you're like, no, I think I'm good.
Honestly, like, just don't like if you're looking for somebody, don't get involved with a chick. Don't get involved with a chick that is super, super into therapy if you can help
Dude,
it.
of course not. They're going to be trying to constantly pathologize you,
Well,
constantly thinking they know what's going on in your brain, bro. I hate me a fucking psychology minor ass broad, dude. I swear to God.
Oh, sure. Well, I don't know if I've ever said this, but this is my whole take is psych majors are the blue state equivalent of horse girls.
Yeah,
that's all it is. Yeah. That's all. It's horse girls that live in a city. Mm-hmm. They're fucking nuts. They're insane. They are insane. Crazy. But no, I'm not even talking about psych majors. I'm just talking about like don't get into a relationship where some chick is gonna like encourage you to go to therapy.
No.
And honestly, just don't go to therapy. Literally, just don't go to therapy.
No.
Because that's the other thing. It's like women giving you advice on how to be attractive to women is the worst trap you can fucking fall into. Mm-hmm. Okay, they don't know shit about that. Okay, and that's part of what makes it so magical, right? Yeah. Is because then they're surprised when something actually does please them because they have no fucking idea, right? Don't take any fucking advice from women. It's always going to be fucking horrible.
Well, it's the same thing with men. It's like men think that they know, like, you know, can tell women what's attractive in women or whatever, and then you end up with like fucking drag queens, and you're like, dude, nothing's attractive about that, bro. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's a nightmare.
Dude, I like to think that drag queens are just like the biggest misogynists of all because they're just
definitely, dude.
It's just blackface.
Yeah, essentially black body.
Dude, speaking of blackface, so you know, systemic oppression. Having the legal system stacked against you. Former president of the United States, former president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. We got the mugshot, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, and bless his heart,
dude. Honestly, man, this is going to be one of the wildest. This is going to be one of the best presidential campaigns ever.
It's going to be hard as fuck, dude. He should put a parental advisory on that. Make that photo black and white, put a parental advisory square in the bottom corner, and boom, it's the hardest fucking cover of all time.
Dude, someone came into my replies and like posted a picture of Trump with like his hair grown out and like a mustache with like a Death Row Records frame on the picture.
I love that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. I've been talking about, well, really fast. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that's all.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Everybody fucking get married, have kids, find somebody who makes your life better. And yeah, I love my fiance. Yeah, Trump, dude. It's fucking hilarious, man. I love this about face they've kind of done. And I guess it's like some have done it, not really all, but like this whole thing of like, all right, like what I want is I want his face plastered everywhere with this mugshot. That's going to be the optics. It's going to be it's going to be everywhere. And then like hard as fuck after years, he comes back on Twitter and just posts the mugshot.
Hell yeah, dude.
The first person to post it, the first post in that goes so fucking hard. Okay. Mm-hmm. I love it. And then I don't know if you saw this, but The Atlantic now, in response to that, puts out an article. He wants you to look at him. Don't do it.
Of course he wants you to look at him. He's running for fucking president.
Dude, this is mom and dad fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The lion liberal mainstream media is so effeminate. And then Trump's just like, yeah, fuck you. Never surrender. Never surrender. Election interference. Never surrender.
Dude, the photo he posted on Twitter, that's just it looks like he just like went on Paint or like Word, pasted the image in there, and then just typed white background, dude.
It's boomercore, dude.
It's everything. That's the shit. That's everything. It's schizophrenic. It's dope. It's just putting your nuts on the table about it.
It's like a Viper album cover.
Dude, I literally was going to say it's giving Viper energy. Viper is the shit, dude. Yule cowards don't even smoke crack.
Dude, Yule cowards don't even run for fucking president.
Yule cowards don't even do like fighting the election interference and never surrendering.
Which, by the way, like they're like getting him on not filing documents soon enough or some bullshit like that.
Whatever.
It's all about like he took classified documents, a thing literally everyone fucking does. Like Biden got busted for that not that long ago, right? And then it's the which I'm sorry, I'm like sure you've heard the audio, but the whole like calling the Georgia election official and being like, I know that there's more votes. I need you to find those votes for me. Find them for me. That's just like how people talk. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's like literally forcing someone to like pull votes out of thin air. It's him being like, okay, the issue with this is that you need to, and this is, I mean, I don't know if it's going to hold up in court or not, because obviously this is a fucking stitch job. The idea that anyone would think this isn't a stitch job is insane to me.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. But like, whether or not that statement constitutes actual corruption and election interference depends on whether you believe he actually believed there was interference or not, right? Because if he knows that there was no interference, then him saying find them for me is him, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But if he actually believed it, right, then you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, how are you gonna fucking win the case like this? It's like like if that's what it's about, then that's like completely circumstantial shit and just based on interpreting that quote.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fucking. It's just a fucking joke, dude. I mean, it took them 3 fucking years, and now
that's what they came up with.
Well, it took them. Well, to be honest, it took them like 7 fucking years because they had all of his fucking. But
I mean, dude, they tried to impeach him, dude. It didn't work. They tried to do the Russia collusion. It was bullshit. Like, I mean, what? How many more times, bro? The dude is.
Well, they did impeach him. They did impeach him twice. It just didn't do anything.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter because it's fucking weak dick, dude. Limp dick.
Well, so here's the thing, right? It takes them 3 years after for them to do it. And now they bring him to court, okay? And his fucking court date is the day after Super Tuesday.
Perfect timing. What a coincidence.
Fuck you. And honestly, like, yes, that's fucking election interference. 100%. That's literally fucking election interference.
That's what he's talking about, dude. Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with so
dude, they made an article where they said that they did it. Like they were like, yeah, we did election interference. It happened. We manipulated
they fortified the election.
Yeah. Yeah, they fortified it. Sorry. Yeah. There was a secret cabal of people saving the election.
Well, and I just want to say, by the way, for anybody on, I'm going to pull like a Jimmy Dore here, for our YouTube here. And just in case anyone's wondering, right, we're playing characters right now, and we would never suggest that anything about the 2020 election wasn't completely above board. It was probably one of the most secure elections we've ever had.
Best handled that I can remember for sure.
Yeah, don't get us started on how well handled and secure the 2020 election is. The only thing that's probably more secure and effective is the COVID vaccines.
Oh yeah. Dude, lots of people are saying that they're the greatest of all time, the vaccines, and lots of people are saying it was the best election ever. We got a lot of really smart people working on the votes.
The best in their field.
Yeah, the best and the brightest. And so, yeah, I mean, it really was the right outcome, fundamentally, but they did have to do a lot of finagling.
Yeah, I mean, more people voted for Joe Biden than any other candidate in American history.
Yeah, that's just the power of his message, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
The dude speaks, it resonates with people.
Yeah, his message. Yeah, man. I mean, it fucking rules. Here, I'm looking at my notes here.
Well, I like a couple things. Like, number one, I've seen people like talking shit about how he looks uncanny and looks crazy or whatever in his mugshot.
I think he looks great. I think it's a great photo. I authentically think it's a great photograph.
He's got the hunter eyes going, not Hunter Biden, but the hunter, the hunter glare.
Yeah,
and he's got he does have one of his head, like his head, kind of one side of it angled a little bit more slightly forward. It's kind of like stern or inquisitive in a way. I kind of like that, but also it's like no one's gonna look. Looks maybe the best of any mugshot I've seen, because I've had a couple of mugshots and I didn't look great in them. And I don't think you're at your best typically in that scenario. So I think he came out pretty good on it. I think it's a good look for him. Like, I think it's obviously a pinup, a stitch up. It's bullshit. Like, it's obviously election fortification. It's obviously something that is just nothing. Like, that's how I felt about the previous arrest too. And I just think it's so fucking lame and see-through, man. I think everyone can see through it. The libs still love it, though. I mean, I think that's probably what they're doing it for, just to, like, give their base a bone and try to re-energize them, I guess, and remind them like what the evil is that we have to stop at the next election.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, they're just out of fucking control now. I mean, like it's like a seal has been broken in the mind of normies, where like I don't really know that there's like a way back from this. Like I think they just, and I'm not gonna make the annoying argument that a lot of people make that it's just like I want Trump to just be gone so that we can because like people can just be routed in this direction with a new person if the machine does that. But like at a certain point, like it is just like Trump does kind of just like need to disappear for a while, for them to just at least come down a little bit. But fuck, man, like I don't know. I mean, it's insane, right? It's just, I mean, the idea that like in the past you would get fired from your job for voting for Mitt Romney or Barack Obama is just like, it would just be inconceivable.
Yeah.
Right. And people are fucking crazy about it. People are authentically crazy about it. And they also just believe weird shit about him. That's the thing. It's like you and me don't even really fucking like him that much.
No.
Right?
I mean, he's a reprehensible piece of shit ultimately, but I think that like as far as politically, he's kind of our guy.
No, 100%. No, and that's kind of part of the point, right? And to be fair, like he is the dissent candidate basically. And as sad as that is,
I was gonna say, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but I've been warming up more to RFK. I have been warming up more to him.
Okay, what'd he do?
Well, nothing. I mean, he went on a Tucker. He did a Tucker X interview recently.
He's done a few.
And he just came off. I mean, I think he came off pretty good. I think that fundamentally he
worked for him.
Yeah, I think he's got a dissent thing going on his own as well. Like, I don't think it's the same. I think it's like voting for Trump's more of a fuck you to the system and like the status quo of what's going on in general in a major way.
Dude, Trump's on the revenge tour though, dude. Yeah. Like that's the thing is it's like fucking Lenin talking about like I didn't need to know how to operate the machine. Once I learned that I just needed to smash it, right?
Yeah.
Now like that's not Trump. That's never really fully been Trump to that extent. But like it's the closest thing to that we have, right? And like again, like the fact that he now has a personal fucking vendetta against the deep state, is now I guess RFK does too.
Yeah, I think his is just a different, like the way he contextualizes the deep state is different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's that different, but yeah.
He just doesn't talk about him in the same kind of phrases, and he doesn't tie into the same cultural themes that Trump does. And I think that's a big part of it. He talks about him more so as in like the agencies and like less so like I don't know. He was talking about elites and shit like that though on the Tucker interview. So yeah, I don't know, whatever. But anyhow, yeah, Trump is more of a dissent candidate in that way. I think that for me personally, I'm probably going to vote RFK in the primaries. I think I've decided on it.
Hell, I'll vote for him.
I'll probably vote Trump in the general if he's around.
Let's fucking go, dude. I don't even think that my state has a Republican primary.
Really?
Yeah. So I think
like there's not people doing it, or like
well, not all states have primaries for both parties, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Washington doesn't have like a primary, or they certainly don't have a caucus.
How does it work?
I think you just get whatever you get. I mean, I just don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think that the Washington State GOP is like very powerful.
I mean, I wouldn't assume so.
I mean, that's why
have like a decent red population outside the cities, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just all Seattle. That's just what the politics of this state is. I mean. Tiffany Smiley ran against Patty Murray for I believe it was Congress.
I did not vote for someone with the last name Smiley, bro. That's just unsettling.
Yeah, it was a little creepy, but she raised a lot of money and she got a lot of support. But I don't know, man. I mean, it still ended up not being anything.
Yeah. Dude, well, I'm glad to see Trump back on Twitter. I think that's for sure one positive that's came out of this. And I didn't even know that it was happening. I like how he handled it. Like, he might have had access back to Twitter for a while now.
He did.
I think he did.
He's had access for like a year and a half at least.
Yeah, and he's just been playing it cool, hanging out on truth, sharpening his sword, so to speak. And then he just pops onto the scene and throws down a banger. I'm excited to see how that progresses.
He's not even really saying shit, right? He's just like, I'm like looking at his page right now. Real Donald Trump hasn't liked any posts.
Hell yeah. I like that energy too. He's like, I'm not engaging with the website. I'm coming on, I'm spouting some shit out, and I'm getting out of here.
He's following 51 people and he has 87 million followers.
Whoa.
And yeah, it's just the mugshot. Mugshot, August 24, 2023. Election interference. Never surrender. DonaldJTrump.com.
Yeah.
It's fucking unbelievable. Death Row Records.
Yeah, dude, for real.
Unbelievable.
I hope it works. I hope it's positive for him. I hope they don't try to keep him out of the fucking election in a serious way. I hope that it just falls apart. Yeah, because it's obviously bullshit. It's a charade. And if they do like really keep him out of the election, either by putting him in jail or whatever, it's gonna be like, that's pretty bleak. Like, that's pretty. I mean, the democracy or whatever is bullshit in the first place. It's a sham. It's a spectacle. But like, that's a new step in a different direction than we've had in years and years and years and years of being a country. Just being like, oh yeah, we're gonna put this guy in jail actually, and just not let him run, even though he was president, and we actually don't even have anything on him. So if they do find a way to do that, that's cause for concern, I would say.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I feel the energy kind of shift a little bit, and I don't think that they're going to be able to keep him out of the campaign personally. Mm-hmm. I just don't think so. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't see how you could in a way and still maintain any semblance of legitimacy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like I don't know. I mean, honestly, at that point, I just think he would be assassinated. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, did you see him on Tucker? Because so that's another thing, right? There was the GOP debate, and it was the day before Trump's arrest, or maybe the day of. Either way, there's a GOP debate. Trump was not present, just like with the Blaze conference previously, and instead he opted into doing a Tucker interview on X. And it's my first when I watched that interview, it's my first time watching any of Tucker's new thing, like his Twitter show. Have you seen any of those at all, or have you encountered it?
Yeah, I think it's really sad that it needs to be called Tucker on X now.
Yeah, for sure. That's pretty fucked. Like, the X branding is so prominent in it. And then the lighting and the setting's a little uncanny for me about where he does
I hate how he's in like the Beverly Hillbillies cabin.
Yeah,
with like an LED display of like a crick in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I don't care for it.
What the
flannel energy, dude? Like, I don't know.
I hate it.
Yeah, it's weird. And then I don't like seeing, this is maybe a weird thing for me, but I just don't really love seeing like people's legs like on interview. Like,
this is like the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like things you don't like, people's knees.
Yeah. Cover those things up. It kind of is like that. They'll put a desk in front of you or something, or sit at a table, or like they're just kind of like sitting in these like kind of low sitting chairs where Tucker's kind of like perched in it weirdly. And I don't know, it's just a weird format and setting for like a legitimate interview to me. It's just it's like they're trying to do like a fireside chat kind of vibe or something. And it's just, I don't know, it's a little weird. But that being said, the interview that Trump did with him was like 40 minutes roughly, just one-on-one, which is, I think, the best. I like that as a method of getting to know like a candidate or whoever, because you're getting just a big dose of them, like that town hall kind of situation thing. And I think it's good because that allows Trump to like get into something where he's not as confrontational. Like, for me, I like when he's in a debate and he's like, these people are sick, everyone in the crowd's bullshit.
I'm sorry, really fast. I'm sorry. I was flipping over to close Twitter really fast because I am listening to you, and I have to read it on air because it was so funny. This headline: "Man jailed for raping masked intruder in home." A Melbourne man who overpowered and raped an intruder will spend at least 4 years in prison.
Dude, holy fuck. That's the ultimate, like, fuck you dominance thing. It's like, I'm just gonna rape you. You came in my house? Yeah, you're on my turf now, boy. Holy shit. That's crazy.
It is fucking crazy.
Imagine being a robber and you're breaking into someone's house, and then next thing you know, 30 seconds later, you're getting raped. It's the turn of events there is so crazy.
Dude, classic turning of the tables.
Yeah. You ever seen that one movie? It's like people breaking into a home, and it turns out the home is like rigged up with like all these like
yeah, Home Alone.
Yeah, that's not what I was talking about. Yeah, dude,
McAllister just rapes Joe Pesci.
Holy shit, that would be hilarious. I mean, that would be obscene and not okay for television or anyone to watch, but that's funny. But yeah, I think that Trump in this kind of long form interview setting is like a more digestible and humanizing way to see him. And it's like there's less for you to bitch about in that. Like, if you're someone who's like, well, he's not, the decorum isn't right, and he doesn't talk to people right or whatever. Well, he's being pretty cordial on this Tucker interview. And so I think that that's a positive for him. I think overall he comes off really good on the Tucker interview. He's like sharp. He's pretty quick witted. Definitely in comparison to the other people that are, you know, in the ring. And so I think it was a pretty good thing. Did you see any of the interview?
I didn't. I know that I had talked about wanting to watch it before this. I didn't get to it. I will just say I'm a little bit disappointed because like it's his race to lose. So he probably didn't really have much of a reason to do the debate, right?
Debates, yeah.
Especially because it's so us and them kind of thing that it's like, what the fuck? Like nobody who like supports Trump is gonna be like, oh, well, I don't know, Nikki Haley, you know. I gotta say, dude, I fucking hate Nikki Haley for some reason.
Dude,
man.
she is the worst.
She is the worst, dude. And I don't even. Well, anyways, don't get me started. But point is like I'm still a little disappointed though because the whole thing is like you love seeing him just go off the leash and just thrash these people, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, he's like a pit bull getting its jaws around like a little chihuahua, right? He's just going to grab Chris Christie and just thrash, right? Yeah. I want to see that. I want to see that, yeah. Right?
I do too. But I think that there's like, it gives less fire to the media hate machine if he doesn't, which I think is like, given his current situation with like the court case and everything, it's like maybe a positive, I think. I think it makes him slightly more digestible to just like every normal people. And then you see him on there acting like a normal person being interviewed, and you're like, oh, we're about to just put this dude in jail for no reason. Like, yeah, that's not right. I think that that's a positive. Although I want a little blood in the water. You know what I mean? I want to see him rip Chris Christie apart, that fucking schlub. Yeah, I'd like to see something like that.
Schlub, I think more like fucking flub.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, because he's fat as hell.
He's morbidly obese.
Yeah, the dude is not healthy.
Do you remember that time Nancy Pelosi said that Trump was morbidly obese?
Dude, that woman doesn't know what's going on. She's got a whole fucking
freezer
full of Ginny's ice cream, bro.
Dude, she was cooking with that one a little bit though, dude. She was She was getting a little uppity. I mean, you know,
she's a little feisty little bitch, dude.
She's a fighter, you know. Dude, we went over to my friend's to my friend's place for dinner the other day. Or not the other. It was just like a fucking year ago. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about anymore. And his wife was like, did you hear about how Nancy Pelosi on January 6th was like, let me at him. I'm a street fighter. I'll fight. And it's like, and like, she was like saying this to us, and like me and my fiance like didn't know how to react because it was like, oh, are we going to like laugh at this now? Like, and she like actually just thought she was saying that Nancy Pelosi's badass. And I think my fiance was saying something of just like she was like fired up from adrenochrome or something. And then me and her laughed, and they didn't know what the fuck we were talking about. But like, but it's just it's like it was like I was in a fucking black hole where I was just like, oh my god, like I didn't know people talked. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, dude, Nancy Pelosi and fucking RGB's ghost is going to come out here and, like, you know, really handle some business in January 6th. There's going to be a lot more blood in that fucking Congress room.
Cockpit, dude.
Yeah.
Dude, Nancy Pelosi and Ruth Bader Ginsburg in a bare knuckle boxing match against Mark Wahlberg.
Holy fuck, he would have beat the fuck out of him. Dude. I would love to see it. I'm not an advocate for violence against women, but those two broads could use a beating. That's a fact. I mean, I don't know about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, dude. That woman's in, you know, she's.
You know, I'm actually sad to hear that. You know, you're telling me this for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think we're so back.
I hope so, man.
I'm feeling good about it. I think the mugshot's cool.
Are they gonna live stream his trial?
Probably like not. That would go so fucking hard.
Yeah. Well, I feel like did they fucking live stream Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's fucking like?
I mean, they
civil
televised
trial.
like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, so hopefully they do, because then it's gonna be just obvious, like how it's bullshit, dude. Who gives a fuck about some papers?
Well, this is the thing.
What?
Libs just don't know what the fuck is going on with Trump. Like they don't. Libs think that he's Hitler.
Yeah,
and I don't. So I don't know. I mean, it's just. I think I heard someone make this point the other day that was just like, dude, if someone like quote tweeted that Rolling Stone had a post that was like "fuck around, find out," and it was like a picture.
I hate that phrase more than anything, dude.
I know. Whenever anybody says that, like my opinion of them just loses 3 points.
Get PTSD. I'm like, flashbacks.
No, because I get flashbacks of like the Floyd riots of just like a video of like a Korean of like a Southeast Asian store owner just being beaten to death by people, and then just like obese blue hairs being like, "Oh, fuck around and find out," and it's just like, dude, like you're going to hell.
Yeah,
you're gonna go to hell when you die.
I immediately think of like Chop Hood Trap House and that kind of ilk of people. And
I mean, that's just what I described, basically. Yeah,
it's like horrible. That whole fucking God, man, the fuck around and find out Bernie kind of movement that was happening right then.
Even when I was a Bernie tard, I didn't even.
I hated it. Yeah, dude, be normal, bro.
I'm sorry, dude. Be normal, bro.
Honestly,
Run the Jewels is fucking cringe. They've always been cringe. I don't like Killer Mike. I think he's fucking gay.
Yeah,
like it's just annoying, dude. Run the Jewels is basically just like Chapo Cell Macklemore.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Rob Dyrdek and Big Black, but for losers.
It is, dude. It is, except with less cringe animals.
Yeah, dude, the fucking mini horse they used to have.
Dude, didn't Rob Dyrdek like completely financially screw Big Black?
Oh, probably, dude. Yeah,
dude, that
makes sense.
That was like an insanely big show.
It was made, dude. It was crazy. Think about that show put in today's context. Like if that just came out today, there's like a giant black dude named Big Black and this little white dude named Rob who's just like financially like extorting this guy. And he's just like, you're my bitch, but you're a big guy.
It's just a show about Motown musicians and Jewish producers.
Basically, yeah.
Man, this country, this here country was built by them. Anyways, I think that's basically all I got, man.
Yeah, is Rob Dyrdek Jewish? Let's check the early life on him.
He probably isn't, right? he's probably. I'm actually gonna look it up.
I'm looking it up too. You type faster than me, probably though.
Yeah, I got that fucking
PMC fingers, dude.
PMC fingers.
Early life, Kettering, Ohio. Apparently not Jewish. I mean, there's nothing in there. I'm not convinced.
Well, yeah, I know, but well, okay. Is Dyrdek a Jewish name?
I assume so, but like I don't have anything I'm basing it off of. It sounds maybe more like I don't know.
Oh my
Eastern
gosh,
Bloc.
this is really funny.
What is it?
First thing that comes up. His dad. I'm sorry, this is just funny. We're doing this. This maybe this is bullshit because I'm not finding it on the page, but it was on the little like Google preview. Her nationality is American and of mixed descent. Her father.
Oh.
Well, maybe her father was of like Polish Jewish descent.
Oh, okay. The Patty.
Yeah,
but that's not the last name. Anyways, he might not be Jewish.
Hold on, this is important. No, I don't know. I don't know. Who cares, man? Well, I mean, some people care.
I mean, a lot of
Is
people
Rob
care.
Dyrdek Jewish on Answers.com?
I'm sure we got some people that can do some, family tree searches. Some of our listeners probably got some sort of genealogical database they can look in for us.
Dude, it's even worse. Rob Dyrdek's religion, he became an ordained minister in the Universal Life Church.
Whoa. Recently?
In 2011.
Holy fuck.
The Universal Life Church is a non-denominational religious organization founded in 1962 by Kirby J. Hensley under the doctrine, do that which is right. The Universal Life Church advocates for religious freedom, offering legal ordination to become a minister free of charge to anyone who wishes to join.
No type of training or anything. That's so fucking Protestant, bro.
I know, this is Protestant. This is just for Protestantism.
Here's the thing, like, those things are horrible. Like, any of that, like, non-denominational church or whatever, it's crazy. I like the concept because the concept is like you're trying to be like, big tent church, everyone's welcome in here. It's like, and I think that's kind of like the universal church, like Catholic church is like the universal church fundamentally in the Christian religion. It's meant to kind of, you'd be able to contain all of what is like a Christian faith. And I think the kind of idea here is like it's like, a misplaced acting out of that concept of just like, we're trying to like be for everybody that's in this, but instead you end up just having nothing. Like, you're not actually offering anything. You have no structure. You're not giving anything valuable really with the religion or with what you're doing. And so anyways, it just becomes some secularized bullshit where you walk in and you just see like, a bunch of pride flags or like whatever in there. And you're like, wait, where's the church? What's going on in here?
Dude, that like, religion without any fucking structure or definable characteristics is the type of shit that leads people to just like become serial divorcees and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shit, man. I think we got a lot. We got like 2 hours and 20 minutes so far, so we can probably call it here. I need to wrap up and eat some dinner anyhow.
Yeah, bro. I mean, this is like over 2 hours.
Word. All right, man. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. We will see you next week, or we'll see you in the Patreon.
Didn't you just say like we have like 2 hours 20 minutes or something? And then I responded like, "Yeah, this is over 2 hours."
Yeah,
that's how you know we're. That's how you know we're done, dude.
Yeah, fuck.
Dude. So we got a blue supermoon tonight.
Oh no shit! Once in a blue moon, huh?
Once in a blue moon. Once in 10 years, actually.
Really?
And so me and the woman, we got a little date night plans. We're gonna go get some pho. We're gonna go watch the moon, and then we're gonna come back here and work on some wedding stuff a little bit.
Hell yeah, man.
But I recommend you. Well, I can't recommend the listeners because we're not even gonna fucking release this today. But you should go check out this fucking blue moon, dude.
Well, the listeners should go back in time and make sure they check it out if they have the ability to do so.
Well, and also, yeah, you'll be the glass half full. I'll be just the bad cop. FOMO. If you didn't go out, then what the fuck are you doing with your life? How are you gonna find a wife if you're not going out to the blue super moons? Okay,
moon gazing.
Say yes to life. Be Nietzschean, you fucking piece of shit. There it is.
These people are sick. This is obviously a very, very sick individual. These people are the sickest of them all. These people are sick. They are sick. And you better get used to hearing it. These people are sick.
And that concludes this week's episode of These People Are Sick. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, you could head over to our Patreon page, which is the home for bonus content, extra episodes, video content, access to our Discord, and more. That's patreon.com/thesepeoplearesick, and we hope to see you over there.